18th.
Thank you very much. I like to get that right.
No, I don't like to steal anything. Unless it's town park.
Okay, Madam Mayor, it's 6:01 and we are live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular city commission meeting of February 18th, 2025. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Betty Rush,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sarah Maliga,
Present.
Commissioner Christopher McVoy,
Here.
Commissioner Mimi May,
Present.
Commissioner Reynaldo Diaz.
Here. Thank you very much. Commissioner May will lead us in the moment of silence, and I'll lead the pledge.
Okay, I think we'll literally do a moment of silence, and you might do with that whatever you wish. Thank you.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Are there any additions, deletions, or reordering?
I don't have anything, Madam Mayor.
Anybody? Nope. Okay, great. Keep going. All right, presentations. Now, the first one is a proclamation, and this is so timely. And we have someone from the Lord's Place here tonight. This is a proclamation declaring February 28th as the Lord's Place March to End Homelessness Awareness. Whereas homelessness is a serious social and economic issue impacting all levels of our society. And whereas the city of Lake Worth Beach and the Lord's Place recognize that housing is a basic human right and that all people deserve a place to call home and respect. And whereas the city of Lake Worth Beach and the Lord's Place are partners in providing that respect and pathway to a brighter future for men, women, and families who are homeless in our community. And whereas the city of Lake Worth Beach extends its appreciation to the Lord's Place for its leadership on this critical social issue and its wide array of successful programs and services changing the lives of the homeless one life at a time. And whereas the Lord's Place will hold its annual 5K March to End Homelessness on Friday, February 28th, 2025 at 2 p.m., commencing at 2808 North Australian Avenue and concluding with the ceremonial program from 4 to 6 at Centennial Square, which is at 150 North Clematis in West Palm Beach. And whereas the Lord's Place has an ongoing commitment to addressing homelessness with a renewed focus on action and community mobilization, the event name change signifies their collective determination to inspire meaningful change and build momentum in this critical mission. And whereas the Lord's Place and the city of Lake Worth Beach recognize that many community members are supporting the march, including the Honorable Ann Brown, who believes that everyone deserves a roof over their heads. And whereas the mission of the Lord's Place is to break the cycle of homelessness by providing innovative, compassionate, and effective services to men, women, and children in our community. Now, therefore, I, Betty Rush, Mayor of the City of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, by virtue of the authority vested in me and on behalf of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim February 28th, 2025 as the Lord's Place March to End Homelessness Awareness Day. In witness, I have set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Lake Worth Beach to be affixed this 18th day of February, 2025. And we have a lady from the Lord's Place here. We have a couple just while she's coming up. Come on up. Oh yeah, no, this is a thing. And she says she's very shy, so we're going to be very very gentle with her. Just introduce yourself, who you are, and we're going to just go into what you do.
Okay, absolutely. I have a tiny little speech that I made, if that's okay.
Feel free.
I just want to thank everyone for having me here, if you guys can all hear me. I want to thank you guys for all having me here.
What's your name?
Oh, my name is Alexandria Thomas. I'm a peer specialist at the Lord's Place. I want to thank you guys for having me here to accept this proclamation on behalf of Val Stanley. The Lord's Place, we house 21 women going through home insecurity for up to 2 years. And during this time, we are able to connect them with benefits such as careers. We are also able to connect them with housing as well as regular benefits, social security and disability. We're hoping to do all of these while we have them there in our care.
And you're speaking specifically about Burkle Place on South Federal Highway, Burkle Place 3.
Burkle Place 3 and Burkle Place West, and our graduate house they have a different level.
Mhm.
They are the ones that they do pay rents at a lower substantially amount. And we have a level system that they work their way up to. But this one specifically is for Burkle and Burkle 1 and Burkle Place 3.
Thank
you. We are able to, we use an intergenerational housing model, housing people 18 through 35 and 55 and up. So that way we try to have that meeting in the middle where the younger generation can help the older generation with things such as technology and, how to just, manage day-to-day things like even self-checkout's harder for a lot of our population. So, and the older people are displaying and disposing their wisdom on the younger generation. Our in-between gap of the 35 to 54, they are placed in Burkle 1. So we're trying to address it all the way around. A few of these women will be in attendance at the March to End Homelessness. So I do want to take this time to invite you all and the audience, if you guys would like to join us, as Mayor Resch said, on February 28th from the Lord's Place main campus down to Centennial Square over in West Palm Beach. These women are on their way to a place of their own to call home, and with your help, they are literally one step closer. So I just want to thank you guys so much for allowing us, Burkle 3, all of the women, the staff, the girls are so excited. They've made posters. They're ready to be there. We're just so honored to have this opportunity to be able to, march and, show everybody what we're about, and that our homeless population, those facing home insecurity, have a lot to offer. You should see the girls I work with.
I went down to Burkle Place on J Street a while back, and I spent a couple hours there. And really to talk to the ladies, to hear, where they come from, where they're going, the home that they have found at Burkle Place. And thank you, Mr. Burkle, rest in peace, had that commitment and really followed through with it. And so I'm so glad that you're carrying on with it. Would we like to take a picture? Let's take a picture.
Thank you.
I'm telling you, we don't mess around.
I will find out and get back to you. I'm not entirely sure. I'm relatively new, to be honest. I started 2 months ago. But I will find a chance to get it back to you in the rest of the meeting. Absolutely. One, there's one more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. I have vertical challenge. Yeah.
What time? Great, thank you. And what time? At the,
At 2 p.m.
Okay.
So on the website, thelordsplace.com, there's an immediate link where
Well,
you
I
can
asked her if they need like clothes for these ladies.
I've got tons of clothes.
Right, that's what we're doing.
But they're probably not sexy.
What?
They're probably skinny.
No, she said that, I said, what about this? She goes, oh my God, we need the daughters on the organizations. Mm-hmm. Okay, next we have, well, everybody sit up straight and behave yourselves. We have a presentation by Rhonda Geiger, who is the General Counsel for the Palm Beach County Commission of Ethics.
It is.
It's a good visit. It's a good thing.
Rhonda Geiger, Palm Beach County Commission on Ethics. It's not a presentation. As always, I'm just here to say hello and remind everybody that we are here and why we are here to further the public's trust, especially in local government. We are just so fortunate to be uniquely situated that we can be face to face with the people that we work for. Everybody here, I answer to them just like you guys do. And I embrace that. So as a reminder, we now cover every city, town, and village in the county. So every elected official, every appointed official, and every employee of any of those agencies falls under the jurisdiction of the Palm Beach County Code of Ethics. Fortunately, we've moved really forward from a lot of enforcement activities, and we're now just doing lots of trainings and answering questions. We feel very, very we're very pleased that the movement seems to be toward people reaching out in advance of issues coming to the forefront. So we answer lots and lots of questions happy to provide in person in live trainings to everybody. I'll come out and do those anytime anybody wants those. I did them a few years ago for the whole city of Lake Worth. So I
Right.
feel like it was a 3-year cycle. So you guys are probably coming up on that again, and I'm happy to return. But really, this is just a reminder. We're wanting to make sure the public knows that we exist. I'm often surprised at how many people don't know that we're here, but we are here, and we'll answer questions from the general public, just like we will from you guys. We might not always have the answer, but we can typically direct you where.
So
where
this
you
is
need
the
to
kind of
be.
thing where if I have a question, I can call you and ask about myself. Can I ask about somebody else? Like, the bar, you can ask about yourself, but you can't ask about somebody else.
You can ask anything you want.
Okay.
I mean, we'll do our best to answer a question. I typically will go straight to the code and say, this is what I would be looking at.
Mhm.
You don't have to, you could be lawyerly, but we don't expect people to behave like lawyers and have a lawyerly analysis, but we'll help them determine whether or not what they're concerned about actually is a code violation. I mean, that is one kind of a gentle reminder is we don't legislate, like good behavior. People sometimes watch what happens, not necessarily here, but watch what happens up on the dais and they think people are being rude or disrespectful. And that's, I mean, it's not great, but it's not a violation of the code. So if we can't enforce it, we will simply say that it's just not something that we can enforce.
And for folks to know, every year we have to take, it's a 4-hour training that the city hosts this every Halloween up at the casino. So it's mandatory for all elected officials and board members
Right.
to participate. Ms. Malega.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question was, actually, the mayor just kind of alluded to it, even though that I've always been baffled that it's mandatory, but yet you don't receive proof that the elected officials gone through that training. They just say, yeah, I did it on this day, right? Is that still how it
Well,
works?
Two things. That's the state training. So that's however that gets reported, I'm not privy to because that goes to the state. The local training, which you also have to take, it is recorded. You guys are
Okay.
on, as I said, the city of Lake Worth Beach, I believe you're on a 3-year training cycle. So you'll have a grace period on either side of that. As people's ethics trainings expire, they have to renew them. I mean, we do offer them online as
Yeah.
well. So you can take the online course. It's so much better and so much more engaging in person. You can ask questions. We can give each other random scenarios and I'll do my best to answer them. So to answer your question, I don't know how the state reports, but we do check on a schedule.
You do verify.
We do verify,
Okay.
yeah.
And another question is more for the city manager. Would it be forward thinking for us to have a link to the ethics division on our website somewhere as a resource?
Many places do, many cities and towns do.
we usually do that.
Okay.
So,
Just a thought.
yeah, it's great. Lots of places do.
Great. Ms. May.
Hi, thank you. Actually, follow-up question to Vice Mayor Maliga. So the link to the ethics, would that be something where a citizen could look up and see if we had followed through with our requirements?
I don't think that we don't maintain those. The city of Lake Worth Beach maintains those. So that would not be something that we would provide to the public.
Okay.
It would be a public record. So if they wanted to contact.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mayor Rush, were you speaking to me?
No, I was
Oh,
just,
okay,
sorry
sorry.
about that.
We don't keep track of that. The city of Lake Worth Beach keeps every individual, every elected and appointed official and all the employees. The city of Lake Worth Beach keeps those. And then when we are doing a compliance audit, they provide them to us just to ensure that there's compliance. But we don't keep your ethics forms on file.
Oh, okay. I understand.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And then hypothetically,
Mhm.
what if somebody didn't do the training?
We tell them to do the training. I mean, technically, it's every city has to set their own compliance policy. So some places do it once a year, some places do it once every 2 years. I believe, as I said, the city of Lake Worth Beach is once every 3 years. So if we do an audit, we go through it and we see if there's compliance or non-compliance. It's one of those things that once there's non-compliance, that is a published report anybody could see. So it's out there that not everybody was in compliance. And then that wouldn't result really in an ethics complaint. We would just tell you guys to get everybody in compliance.
It's a bad optic.
It's just the
No,
optics.
okay.
Correct.
So you can't get unelected,
Dethroned.
dethroned?
No. In fact, our penalties are a letter of instruction, a letter of reprimand, or or a filed complaint that goes to a hearing, but and so potentially a fine, but yes, not.
And as a municipality, could we as a governing body have our own consequences or no?
Typically, they're individual. No,
Okay.
they're individual behaviors. The code is written specifically so individuals can't benefit themselves or prohibited entities. That's the whole theory. The genesis of the Commission on Ethics was that elected officials were doing things sort of behind the scenes that was for their benefit and not the benefit of the people. And so generally the code is going to be directed at individuals and their behaviors and making sure that they've done things for the benefit of the people and not themselves.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Really, it's well done.
Anything else?
No, I don't think so. Thank you for the pens and the note.
And let me know about training. Happy to come out.
Yeah, I was one thing I was thinking, maybe I wonder if it would not be a bad thing to have a day where we offer it like twice to all the board members and all the elected officials, just so we have a group. Because it's again, the synchronicity of having people in the room is much better than just
It is,
sitting
and
in-
I can say people, and no offense to the online training because it fills a gap, but I can say that people do walk out of the training laughing and saying like,
Yeah.
this is one of the best trainings I've ever had. I
Yeah.
had no idea ethics training could be this much fun. I mean, it
Well,
really, you know, I know everybody rolls their eyes when I first get there, but it's really, they're okay. They really are.
Great. Thank you so much. I think we're
Sure.
going to try to do that.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I left cards and
Yes, pens, cards, and notepads. Yeah, yeah.
It has a little thingy on the end. It has a little microplastic on the end, of course.
Oh, that you can do your.
No, but it won't work until you take that off. So-
Oh, right. Oh, you're right.
Ah.
All the better pens.
Oh, I thought it
have
wouldn't
that.
work until you do the ethics training.
Right, that's much better. Same shirt tonight. Thank you very much. Now it's time for our quarterly, and folks in the audience, if you could kind of keep it down, folks. Now it's time for our quarterly CRA update.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Commissioners. Joan Oliva, Lake Worth CRA Executive Director. We're going to jump right into it. For those of you who may not have heard, we recently received another grant from HUD for $4.4 million. Not only to build more affordable housing, but to try to remove the obstacles towards affordable housing. So we will be working closely with the city and the Community Sustainability Department on that. This just has some numbers on units that we've created with our nonprofit partners. And of course, a lot of our funding for the actual building of the homes comes from the county in forms of SHIP, home, and also the housing bond loan program. These are a number of projects that we are actively working on or have recently completed. On the bottom of the screen, you'll see 406 to 408 South C. This is going to be home base for Women's Build. That is March 6th and 7th coming up for Habitat for Humanity. We will not only be building new homes for families, we will also be fanning out into about a 3-block radius and doing rehab projects, doing cleanups, doing landscaping, minor repairs, and also painting of people's homes who live in the area. Here's another slide that has a lot of numbers on it. Obviously, a lot of rental and affordable home projects that have been done over the past 15 years since I came here. There's a number of projects there that are ongoing. We recently bought Lucerne Avenue and D Street, which everybody kind of knows is the Rice property. We're putting that property together with a number of other properties that we have bought in the area and probably doing an RFP for multifamily affordable housing within the next, I'm guessing, about 6 months. These are a number of projects that you're all very familiar with. On the left upper corner is Madison Terrace. And as you know, they received a $640,000 grant from the CRA because they are doing a LIHTC project, low-income housing tax credit project. They finished, I believe, they're finished with their demolition. Foundation work has begun. They're scheduled for opening in 2026. And for those of you who don't know, their units are for people 55 and older, making 120% or less of AMI, with the majority of the homes being, or the units, excuse me, being for people making 80% or less of AMI. In the upper right-hand corner, that's Lake Workstation. That's a new project that was somewhat recently approved. It's 91 units, with 71 of those being workforce housing. They received a $200,000 infrastructure grant from the CRA, and they are expected to begin construction by the summer. This is Deco Green. This is not an affordable housing complex, but it is a market rate one on Dixie Highway, North Dixie Highway, next to the Mid. It'll have 125 residential units. It'll also have commercial and retail space. And this one also received an infrastructure grant from the CRA because the water and sewer lines ran right through the middle of the property. And the expected completion for this one is summer 2025. Next, we have the Gulfstream Hotel. I don't have to tell you too much about that. You're all very familiar with it. 140 rooms, 83 apartments. It's currently under construction. W Moda, another project you're very familiar with. We're working on a number of agreements with city staff and also W Moda, or Sunshine Lake Worth Development. Next coming to you will be in a garage agreement. We've been working with that with staff for the last few months and hoping to bring that to you in about March. We recently had the contributing structure agreement approved by both boards and the alleyway extension agreement approved by the city. This is a very familiar site. This is downtown by the substation off of 6th Avenue. So Dixie Capital has been working with us for a number of years, and they have bought 14 properties there with the hopes of doing an affordable housing project. We are in talks with them while they are still working on moving the substation down to the next block. More than likely, it's going to be a Pinnacle project. And Tim Wheat came to you, I believe, last year, talked to you a little bit about it. We're also trying to integrate some market units and some either commercial or live workspace, because I believe that's what the commission kind of is going towards.
What's a Pinnacle project?
It will be a live work affordable housing, probably a LIHTC project if they can get the financing. I think this has started, but I'm not sure. I have to ask Jamie. I noticed today, like half of our sidewalk is missing. So this is the CRA gave the city $600,000 because their goal was to improve the side streets on the west side now that Lake and Lucerne are looking so much better than they did. So the city is actually going out and removing sidewalks and making the side streets a lot better, which is so needed because there's so many potholes in there right now. Thank you. Circuit came to you guys last week. Obviously, we have rides and passenger numbers increasing. We are going to do a survey, an online survey, to reach out to people to see where they would like the circuit to expand to. We're thinking hopefully both south and north. They're also working with a number of the developers that we're working with to try to get some buy-in from them and some funding so the city doesn't have to fund so much of it. But it's been a really great service, and it'll be up and going for street painting this weekend. We're also continuing to do ribbon cuttings, free business workshops. We do those every month over there at the Hatch. We also, monthly, we do the business workshops. Like I said, I think we're finishing up in March on that. We do that during peak season. We have a number of ribbon cuttings. Obviously, Oceana recently opened up. We didn't do ribbon cutting for that, but there might be one coming up. I'll let you all know. These are a number of the grants that we've given since 2017. We've awarded over $2.1 million for businesses and properties within the CRA district. These are in the form of either infrastructure grants, facade grants, or interior improvement grants, and you'll see a number of the recipients on there. I think about 2 years ago, we added signage grants, which are actually very, very popular, especially with the businesses, and we've done a number of those. This is kind of a continuation of some of the more recent. We have Project and Property up in the south end of Dixie, up on the right-hand side. We have Ruru's, Not really sure what the color scheme is going to be there, but it'll be great to have Old Christine's open again. We have the property on the corner of Lucerne and Federal. That's going to open up into office space, and you'll see a rendering of it there. And also the Guillaume, I'm not saying that right, Guillaume, pardon me, law office, which is going to be on South Dixie Highway, which is another really recent and really great project. We're finally seeing some activity on the south side of Dixie Highway. These are a number of publications that we do. We obviously do social media on a regular basis. We also put ads in Urban Land Institute, Discover the Palm Beaches. We make sure that it gets in the magazines that are in the hotels and sometimes the airlines as well. We do stuff in Sun Sentinel, Pure Honey Magazine. We're still working on an RFP for a marketing program for somebody to come in and not only help us do marketing, but also help us implement it because we're a very small staff. Grant revenue received, very proud of this. Over the last 15 years, we are now with our 2 new grants up to $47 million that we've brought into the city. Here. So the pro housing, which is 4.4, we also finished our paperwork and should be receiving $850,000 from Representative Frankel again this year. And that is also for affordable housing.
That's,
Pardon me?
that's not our personal.
No, but that would be great. I'll take it. Lula Lake Worth Arts is our nonprofit arm. We recently redid the logo for that. You can see a number of the things we do over at the Hatch. There's more on the next. With that arm, we recently gave a check for $6,000 to the Lake Worth Playhouse to buy a number of seats, either with the CRA name or with Lake Worth Arts on the back of the seat. We're happy to support them. We also are doing more Adirondack chairs, putting those throughout the downtown. We finished up the Artists of Palm Beach. This past weekend, we had Art Wars. Thank you so much for coming, Mayor. And that was a tough job.
It was a tough job.
Yeah, it was an
I was one
amazing,
of-
amazing event. So we have live art being done within a certain amount of time. They're not given the theme until they get there. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you all to come. It will be open. Hatch will be open this Saturday and Sunday. A really fantastic show. And also coming up right after that during, what is it? It is Women's History Month. We're having a show called Kimono, which will have some really, really interesting pieces as well. Of course, Day of the Dead, we can never forget that. This is our 10th anniversary. Yes, so this year, hopefully bigger and better than ever. We're definitely looking for sponsors. We're also looking for people to do the altars this year. We really want to beef that up a little bit. Of course, that's coming up November 1st, and we're finishing up our paperwork for people who would like to sponsor. And that's it.
Will this slideshow be on your website?
I can put it on there.
And could we put it on our website as well? Except people wouldn't know if we could, if we could just get it so more visible at how much about what they're doing. That is Sarah Martin.
Yeah, it's a video. I didn't realize it was going to just play.
Just keep going. No, it's really what the CRA does is pretty remarkable. And we thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank my staff for putting it together because if I had to do it, it never would have been done in time. And also thank you so much to city staff. They've been really phenomenal, especially over the last few months. We've just been inundated, as you can imagine, with 5 HUD grants, and they've really stepped in and helped us with a lot of our projects that we're working on.
Have you heard about the HUD money coming through? I mean, have you gotten any indication of it not coming through or coming through? Have you heard anything?
I already signed our grant agreement, so I'm guessing you guys did too.
Okay, but okay.
I've heard it's coming.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. A little nervous these days about grants.
Yeah, we were petrified.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So a couple slides back, you had those 3 pictures and then one of them had the surf.
Would it be
Yes.
possible for maybe the CRA to do postcards like that and we could have them at some of the city buildings for people to use as to send out to, you know, to their family or tourists to pick up? I think it'd be a great way to spread the love all over the world. No. Go right, the one with the 3. See where the ocean is, with the surfers, no, down.
15,
Yep.
number 15.
That one.
If you could do something like that.
Yeah, we'll put the city logo on there as well.
Yeah, and just maybe do like a blurb to the websites or whatever, but I love what it says, happiness comes in waves.
I like that.
Like
too.
something like that would be catchy.
Mhm.
Thanks.
One more I thought, circuit.
Yes.
My sister was in downtown this afternoon, and she was talking to some folks from England
Mhm.
who wanted to use circuit, but they can't download if it's not they were unable with their web service to download. I've heard this before. So if we could talk to Circuit and fix that, because our tourists that come in would like to use it.
Absolutely. I'll
Cool.
let them know tomorrow.
That
Thank you
actually
very-
makes sense because when I was in Europe, I couldn't use an app from here. I think it was YouTube TV in Europe.
Right.
My cellular service wouldn't allow it.
Right. So the same thing's happening. So then they were like excited to go to the beach, but they couldn't get. Mr. Brown.
Yes, I did want to thank Joan and the CRA for the $600,000 for the side
Thank you,
streets between
Joan.
Lake and Lucerne. As usual, we
Let's
come
go.
in under budget,
All right.
under,
All right.
always under.
Fine work.
So I will be having a conversation with Director Olivia to see if we can maybe put that additional funds that we were able to save to work on some other streets
Some
within the CRA
planting, some
area.
planting some things. They're not getting it back.
Well, that's part of the conversation. That's part of the conversation. I just want to give her a heads up that we weren't planning on returning,
And
but
this
it would
is-
be within the CRA area. So.
Just real quick, this is a perfect conversation of how that project was on the CIP and it was on the CDBG plan. And 2 years ago, thank you, Joan and the board, for stepping up and paying for that and taking it out of the CDBG and fulfilling that need. That's really what the CRA and the city does, is we work together for the benefit of the entire city. So I think that's a win-win.
Okay, thank you so much. And if you've had I just wanted to let you know, our feelings don't get hurt if your item comes up and then you leave and you don't stay for the whole meeting. We don't take it personally, so just heads up. If it's not awkward, it's not awkward. She's like, when do I get to go home now? All right. All right. Yeah, it is watchable on YouTube. Okay, now we are at public participation of non-agenda items and the consent agenda. Let's have a consent agenda vote first, because I always forget it. Do I have a motion to for the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Now approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion, wait,
Well, let's just do it, then it's out of the way.
but there was an error. I want to make sure that
Well, that's,
Melissa?
I did correct it, Vice Mayor. Thank you for pointing it out.
Thank you. Motion to approve.
Second.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye, thank you very much. Okay. Public participation of non-agenda items.
You did 2 approval. It was me and McCoy. And you, I motioned and seconded.
For the first one, but
for the
approval.
Don't sit down, Retha. Don't sit down. You're up. I'm going to call on you first.
Good evening. Rita Lowe, 1301 12th Avenue South. I'm up here just to try to put some fire under a couple items that we've talked about, and we need to know what's going on in our community, and we need to know what's going on in our neighborhood association. So I'm here to ask and hope that if you don't have the answers tonight, I would love to have the answers by the 26th when we have our neighborhood meeting. The update on the fencing for IA Bank Cemetery, and information on where we go from here on our welcome sign for our historic Osborne community. And I'm speaking not directly to you all, I'm speaking to the city manager. So we would like to get
While
that.
staring at me.
Yeah, we'd like to get that information as soon as we can so we can inform our community and our neighborhood association.
Can I ask Aretha a question about her neighborhood association?
Real quick, we don't do that.
Yes,
No, are you guys fundraising? Because we got an APC got a request for money. Are you fundraising for money to protect the Unity Wall?
the Unity
And if
Wall.
people
and-
wanted to donate, could they do that?
Yes, yes, we're doing that.
Through
and we also-
Whispering Palms Neighborhood Association?
Yes.
Okay, super. Thank you.
And when and where do you meet?
We're meeting on the 26th at the Osborne Community Center at 6 p.m.
Thank you. Just so folks
Thank
know.
you.
Todd Velez,
Thank you.
thank you very much, ma'am. Always a pleasure.
Wow, I just put the year as 1975.
Ooh, happy. That's not my year. Todd Velez,
Hello, Todd Velez, 530 North G Street. I wanted to thank you for the repairs of the potholes on the alley of the 1400 block of Lucerne and Second Avenue by Lake Worth Church of the Nazarene. We have 23 potholes and 26 additional depressions. I would think the alley would be repaved, but they did repair them this morning. So that's a long time for waiting for that. The root meaning for seek is not just merely to look around or take a gander. It's to perceive quickly or keenly. Why do you seek office? I gotta read my own writing. To search out any method that that you crave for it. God's desire to be found in order to find or find out. By thinking, meditating, reasoning. I could go on. We hope that for those that are seeking office, that they have a deeper meaning than just simply running for office. It is a compliment. Thank you.
thank you. Anthony Zeitlin,
Anthony Zeitlin, 117 18th Avenue South, $47 million for the CRA. That is awesome. Where is that money actually going to benefit the city? The guy before me, he was just talking about a couple of potholes around Church of the Nazarene. Great. What about all of the other thousands of them up and down on the north and the south and on the east side? It seems like you guys aren't listening. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be walking, actively doing stuff instead of making proclamations and just blah, blah, blah. I'm going to make a map. I'm going to make a map of every single pothole I find. And then I'm going to shame you guys by going national with it. I'm going to put on the neighborhood app. I'm going to go, I don't know, I'll send it to the news, and I'm going to make sure I stay on this until they all get fixed. We have $47 million from grants and we can't fix the damn potholes. We can get a couple of them, I guess, around the church today, last minute. Wow, what a great op. But we need real, actual, effective government here, not just a bunch of proclamations and photo ops. This is BS, and I'm sick of it. And I'm really, really sick of it. And I'm just it's not gonna go away. This isn't like one of those bully things where they say, well, if you ignore them, they'll just leave you alone. No, I'm gonna get worse until it gets better. Okay.
thank you. Alex Schultz,
Good evening, everyone. I'm here basically to speak on,
it's really, excuse me. Guy, we really need to not talk. I got my eyes. Come on.
they're getting excited at me.
Yeah, probably. That's it. Go ahead.
Alex Schultz, 612 Second Avenue South. Basically, I'm here tonight to speak about the financial statements. I didn't see that they were really put up until a couple of nights ago. And one thing I noticed, I think there's a material misstatement in the financial statements that should be addressed. When you have an impaired asset, that should be quite often written down. I don't know how you want to do it with some note or something, whether you need to correct the statements there. Because right now, you're showing a $5.4 million asset for the Bohemian lease. And that probably should be written down to maybe near zero. So you may want to talk about that with your finance department and let your outside auditors know and the state auditor general know, because the Sun Sentinel brought this up in an editorial. They called the city a black box. And I think the Bohemian project's still in the black box. We've paid the Bohemian 4.3 million already, and we still owe them another 4.2 million. We're going to be out of pocket 8.5 on the Bohemian. Rhetorical question only. Through 2030, will the city collect only 1.4 million taxes from the Bohemian? So you need to look at that. And we need not to repeat the process. If we're going to do it, I'm not against WMOTA, but I think it should be west. The reason I think it should be west is it's against the master plan, which stated arts should be centralized, not spread throughout the city, which is not palatable to residents or politically acceptable at this time. That's the 2017 master plan. WMOTA should be on this side of the tracks, as close as possible to the Bohemian Garage, and to Vanilla Ice's Pop Culture Museum. This is the Arts District. Why put it at the east end of Old Town? It makes no sense. And let's not have another garage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Up next is Tom Bassi. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, just name and address first.
Tom Bassi, 1753 22nd Avenue. I want to thank the board for this time, but I'm not here really to complain. I'd like to think something to change. I'm going to use my specific situation I'm in. So talking about a property that's $550,000 to $570,000 and a fence for $7,000. And the city wants me to move my fence 3 feet off my property line and plant a bunch of bushes that I don't want. And I'd have to move my fence. I'd have to move irrigation. I wouldn't be able to put my RV in the backyard because right now it's 16 inches off the fence. My property is 8 feet off the curb. I can't open my gates out because I was told that's the city's property. And it's egressing. I said, egressing what? It's on the grass that I take care of, that I cut. If it's the city's property, who's going to come out and cut my grass then? I said, so I can't open my gates over the grass that I take care of. I can't park my RV in the backyard now because they want me to move my fence back 3 feet off my lot line. So I'm going to spend over $500,000 on a property and give up 150 feet of it to put up bushes. And now I have a backyard that I can't even park my RV. And now I have to have a gate that's going to be up against my stairs. I'm going to have to move my irrigation. I just don't understand who makes these rules and what gives anyone the authority to take away property that I paid.
And what's the address?
That property is 1528 North K Street. So even if the city wanted to put in a sidewalk, there's 8 feet from the curb to my fence. And I was going to do the variance, but my neighbor paid the $350 and they were told, no, you got to do it anyway. It's an ordinance. I said, so if the city makes an ordinance that Tom Bassi is supposed to cut the grass over on 10th Street, does anybody actually think that I'm going to go cut the grass on 10th Street just because it's an ordinance? And everybody's property is different. And the permit process, that fence sat in the queue for weeks. And I got a phone call, come in and pay for it. So I was excited. I was like, wow, that's fast. I go in and pay. And they said, no, now the review process starts. I said, so this permit's been sitting for weeks and now the process is going to start after I pay? I said, that's not okay. And this same fence, the girl that reviewed it tells me that I have to fill out an affidavit. I said, why? She goes, well, you bought the house in the name of a corporation. I said, yeah, a corporation that I own. And she goes, well, you have to fill out an affidavit. I said, I'm a general contractor, licensed by the state, not even a county, state license, that I put my license, my name and everything. I'm pulling the permit in my company's name. I said, why do I have to fill out an affidavit? I said, this process is broken. Someone has to fix it. So something can go into, everybody want electronic. So that's, I'm great with all that. And I understand the codes and variances and all that, and it's necessary. But your property is nothing like mine.
Thank you, that's time.
in the middle of the street, things like that. You know, properties can't be all held to the same thing.
Okay, it is your time, and we are aware of some problems, and we're actually working on them.
I would even offer time.
Okay, sir,
to help.
sir,
I get it. I
Okay,
would be
sorry.
willing to Fix the problem.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Leo, his name was Tom Bassie, Bassie. Yeah. Leo? Leo from North A Street? Okay, Peggy Fisher.
Peggy Fisher, North A Street. When elected officials in the city of Lake Worth Beach are sworn in, they take an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of the State of Florida, and the Charter of the City of Lake Worth Beach. Pursuant to Section 112.3142 of the Florida statutes, elected municipal officials are required to complete 4 hours of ethics training each calendar year, which is in addition to whatever Palm Beach County requires of you. All elected officials are required to file an annual financial disclosure form. They are due July 1st of each year for the preceding year. Grace period is provided until September 1, after which fines are accrued at an amount of $25 a day up to a maximum of $1,500 per year. There is an issue in Lake Worth Beach with some elected officials abiding by their oath and fulfilling these requirements. The excuse that ethics training content is the same each year does not negate the need for training, nor does prior training. Financial disclosures and associated forms are discussed by the city attorney in a number of public meetings and when you're elected. One of our elected does not file their forms until the day before the grace period is up. Why? One of our elected had not filed any financial disclosure forms whatsoever by November 21st, 2014, thus getting the maximum fines for 2 years. The city of Lake Worth Beach needs to establish a strict policy regarding compliance with the laws of the state of Florida and consequences for non-compliance. And there is a consequence from the State Commission on Ethics for non-compliance. They conduct an investigation of a public officer who accrues the maximum fine and currently holds their filing position to determine if the failure to file was willful. If the commission finds a willful failure to file, the only penalty that can be recommended by law, which you all then are required to enforce, is removal from office. We have a right to expect each one of you as our elected official to uphold your oath that you take when you are sworn in. It is very concerning that there are people sitting in front of us who have not abided by that oath. So I put it on the city attorney with your help to establish the necessary monitoring, to establish the necessary accounting of who does not do their training, including those employees and board members who are required to do it.
Thank you, that's time.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. Okay. Unfinished business. Renewal of the Florida Gas Transmission Company Firm Transportation Service Agreement. Unfinished business A. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the renewal of the Florida Gas Transmission Company Firm Transportation Service Agreement.
Oh, we have a second from Ms. Malega, and we have Mr. Liberty up here. Would you like to say something?
I can if you want me to.
Oh, it wouldn't be a meeting if we didn't get to listen to you, Ed.
If I may, for the record, Madam Mayor and Commissioners, this is Ed Liberty, Electric Utility Director, City of Lake Worth Beach. This is a contract which the city has had for many, many decades. This allows us to move our natural gas supply to our power plant through the interstate pipeline system owned by Florida Gas Transmission. We move approximately 7,542 million BTUs per day for about 5 months. And then for the 6 months, we move about 1,500 plus million BTU per day on that pipe. If we don't have that, we would not be able to get fuel to our power plant, at least not natural gas, which would create a serious problem. So it's very important from the utilities perspective that you renew that contract and keep that. I'll also add that it's very valuable because they're not building any new pipe in South Florida. So all the space in that pipe has been fully contracted for many, many years. And it's a very valuable commodity. The space itself is a valuable commodity. And we very much don't want to lose that because it would put us out of the power generation business. It would be very difficult.
Can you lock in the natural gas prices just like you did this and just make it all easy?
We could, but some people may like the price that we lock in at and some people may not. It depends on how the markets go.
Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
Not on this, Madam Mayor.
Right, okay, thank you. And I don't have any in front of me, so all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Liberty, once again. Okay, item B, and this is why all the kids are here tonight. The fiscal year 2025-2026 Community Development Block Grant Application Discussion. And our city manager has just abandoned us. Thank you. So let's read, well, why don't we talk about from Jerry?
I'll cover it.
I thank you.
Jerry's got
Yeah,
this.
Jerry's got us.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, I'm Jerry Kelly, grants analyst. Palm Beach County Housing and Economic Development just recently announced the funding application period for the fiscal year 2025-2026 CDBG applications. In addition to our formula allocation estimated to be $301,586, the city is eligible to receive a special area of hope allocation from the county. This is set aside every year for the eligible municipalities in the Urban County Partnership. And this year it's us.
Yay.
And it's estimated to be in the amount of $350,650. Staff has assembled 4 recommended projects for your consideration. You can discuss this tonight, and we also welcome any additional input from the commission for other eligible projects. We will be coming back on March 4th to have your determination of the projects to be funded. The first proposed project is the 11th and 9th Avenue South Greenway Improvements Project. It includes, the scope of work includes, but is not limited to the updated and improved irrigation systems, additional landscaping, added amenities such as benches, doggy stations, garbage receptacles, and static fitness equipment, information and community outreach stations, and art installations. The estimated cost for this project will be covered by the grant funding in full. The second proposed project is improvements to the Tropical Ridge Fitness Park. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, removal of the concrete foundation, which is cracking, and installation of a mulch base for new equipment to be installed. And includes the replacement of the damaged equipment, and the installation of a new playground, which is in bad shape, and installation of ADA sidewalks and landscaping. And the costs of the project will be covered in full by the grant allocation. The proposed project number 3 is improvements to Wembley Gym. The scope of work includes, but is not limited to, the updated signage and marquee, the updated HVAC system, improvements to the restroom facilities, front entrance upgrade, and updates to the athletic equipment in the gym. And these costs will be covered in full by the grant. I forgot to mention that HUD will announce at a later date the actual funding, so this might vary. Not significantly, but there could be a slight variation. And the final project proposed by staff is improvements to the Osborne Center campus. And the scope of work includes, but will not be limited to, roof replacement of the Osborne Community Center, resodding of the athletic fields at Howard Park, and any additional improvements that are needed to the Youth Empowerment Learning Center. The estimated cost of this is $350,650, which would be covered by the Special Area of Hope allocation. The city can submit one project for each allocation, or one application for the two allocations combined. So I leave it to you for further discussion.
Well, since this is in District 1, I'm going to let Commissioner Malega lead off.
No.
Tropical Ridge is in District 2.
Tropical and District 2. I apologize.
And I want to say thank you guys for looking at, yeah. And I want to say thank you for looking at the Tropical Ridge Fitness Park. I'm the one who actually brought that forward. Because I do feel that the CDBG funds need to be spent on things that the community benefits from. The CRA built that park a long time ago, and it has become in disarray. And I think to detour some of the unscrupulous people that do sometimes hang out there, and to give the kids in Tropical Ridge a good playground. That's why I asked for you guys to consider this. It wasn't on last year's, so I'm thankful that you guys did. I personally remember, Jamie, how long does the roof at the gymnasium have? I think you said 5 or 6 years last year, so I don't know what that number is.
Yeah, it's significantly less than that now.
Okay.
But we're doing okay right now.
Okay.
For another year or two.
And it's always important, you know, we have the kids here to hear from the community
Yeah.
on the CDBG funds and where are the funds best spent. And, you know, like we talked about, the CRA stepped up and they took care of the much needed paving on the side streets, which was part of this last year. So I want to hear from the community. I want them to lead this conversation like we have year over year. But I'm in favor of 2 different projects. And if we could benefit 2 different areas, that's what I would be in favor of, and spreading the love of this newfound $350,000. But
Is there enough money for 2 projects?
yes, yeah,
Yes.
Oh, so we're taking
Yeah.
2 out of 4.
yes, we can.
All right, now I'm going to defer to Ms. May because I did skip over her. I apologize, Mr. McBoy, but you'll have your turn.
That's fine.
I think she's finished.
Yeah, she sure did.
That's-
I appreciate that, and I do think that we should spread it for to as many districts as we possibly can. I did have some suggestions and was told that my suggestions were not in the proper location, and that's okay. I understand that. My concern with the Greenway and the Tropical Ridge Park, and both of which I think are excellent projects, but I'm concerned with our ability to maintain them once they're done. And that's very concerning to me. If we go through and we spend $350,000 and we make this beautiful park and homeless people move in the next day, that's not okay. So there's got to be some, it can't be obviously a guarantee, but there needs to be some sort of plan for maintenance, because when did the CRA build that park to begin with?
I
Because
think it was 2010 or 12.
okay,
It was-
so
it-
Later than that.
No,
a little
it's
bit. Yeah.
it's old, and we've never maintained it. The city hasn't.
right,
It's a little
so
later.
why would we go fix it if it's not going to get maintained? That's a legit concern. So, I mean, I absolutely want to have, I mean, I would go to the fitness park. You know, I think that would be great, but we need to talk about how that's going to be maintained, whether it's through future grant money or whether it's from our budget. But if that part's not in there, I'm going to have a hard time voting for it. I think that, you know, some of the things about doing a roof, that's one-time shot done. It doesn't have that continual maintenance as much, although I really would prefer to do something for Tropical Ridge. City manager, maybe you have an idea. I've not done this before, but I really don't want to put all that money into something and have it be trashed the next day.
Is that a question?
It kind of is a question, yeah.
Well, as Jerry mentioned, we do have 2 separate pots of money this year that could go toward 2 separate projects or one larger project. So it really depends on where you guys want to allocate the funds. Now, we do have both facility portions in here as well as park stuff. So it really is up to where you guys and where the community wants to see the money spent.
I think
But-
Mimi's question is more, how are we gonna?
How would we,
gonna protect it?
let's assume that we decided we're gonna do a roof and a park and
Yeah.
the fitness park. Let's just, how do we maintain the park? It's kind of like if you go clean up a neighborhood and then the next day it gets trashed, what's the point?
It'd just be one other area that grounds would have to make sure that we were emptying trash cans and maintaining. And then obviously we'd have the conversation with PBSO to make sure that that's something that they were.
So how is that different than right now?
We haven't had a plan. Have they not been maintaining it?
Yeah, from what the photos that I was sent over, and Chris Hanna in our leisure service department, who is the one who's certified in playground and everything, a lot of that equipment's broken. It just, as Vice Mayor mentioned, it's just old. So
Okay.
a lot of it's not even functioning
Okay.
correctly. So not really much to maintain if the stuff is broken and needs to be replaced.
But
And
what
a lot
about
of it's
cleaning
been out
up?
in it's been out in the elements. It hasn't been
Yeah,
protected.
yeah,
like
yeah.
the-
Right. I mean, and I understand that. I mean, we've got salt water, things in general are going to get into disrepair. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking more about
Just upkeep.
the upkeep of a park area has been a challenge for us.
Yeah.
To say the least. So I would love it. It would be great, but not if it's going to get trashed the next day. You know, and I don't know how, maybe there's other ideas that you guys have that I don't, so I'm going to stop talking and listen. But if we can't come up with some sort of a maintenance plan, then I really would look at something that's a one-shot deal, done, fix something and move on until we can promise that it will not get ruined the next day.
Or at
Thanks.
least at least it seems like we should get rid of the broken.
Well, yeah, we do need to get, and maybe
that
that's a
anyway, no
start,
matter
but, and I appreciate that because I would love it to be functional. And I know, and I have heard from people that live in Tropical Ridge that really want that to be done. So, it's not a no by any means. It's just, let's make sure that we take care of our things.
That's North G Street, just north of downtown, right?
Compass.
Right by
Near
Compass, yeah.
north
Okay,
of-
Mr. McBoy? It's kind of tucked away. You don't really see it, though. That's the thing about that little park, is it's really pretty
The big tree
discreet.
behind it.
Mr. McBoy?
Yes, I had some involvement when the equipment was brought in. If I remember right, it was partly a donation of a nonprofit or something, but it's been a while. I go by there a fair amount and I see a lot of usage of it, usage of even the exercise equipment as it is. So I see people there doing exercise type things. So I think it's and it's certainly an area that, not everybody has the funds to join a more formal place, but it lets people get together and do exercise. So I don't think there's any way to guarantee that everything will be pristine for the next 10 years. But I think experience tells you that if you fix up the equipment, clean up the broken concrete, you're sending a certain message that, you'll have some buy-in of the neighborhood that's likely to do a little bit of self-informing. Hey, guys, don't throw your stuff here. Don't do this, don't do that. So I would support that because I've seen it get a lot of use.
Mr. Diaz?
Yeah, I think that's a super valid concern and something that we really gotta prioritize. I think it's really important to have the community drive this conversation. So I look forward to hearing what the thoughts are. I mean, my first two were the same choices. Those were the immediate ones. Sorry, Tom, I know I promised you an air conditioner, but we got time on that. So for the fitness equipment, I mean, I guess the thought is, because I've been thinking about it in terms of enforcement. How do we address this? This park does have like some pretty good shade on it, right? And I suspect that's why it's an attractive place to take a nap, if you will. And so I think, because we haven't really committed to this, it really just says replace fitness equipment, doesn't say with what. I'm looking forward to hearing what the thoughts are because I'm happy to hear that people are using the fitness equipment. Because my first thing is, generally from a planning perspective, if something is being abused, that means you got to find an appropriate use. What's something that's going to pack that place so that it's going to be used appropriately. So I'm kind of looking forward to hearing that conversation. I'm glad this popped up because I know, we've been hearing about it for a long time. So it's right up for the queue. But my one question is, engineered wood fiber surfacing, that's just fancy for mulch, right? It's not deck. Because I think engineered wood fiber surfacing, I'm thinking like starboard decking or something. That's too fancy. Obviously not that, but okay. Thank you.
Thank you. My thoughts are this. I know that the gym is highly used.
Yeah.
So my feeling would be whatever else we do, I think the gym would be one of my priorities. It is just like kids are there all the time. And I think it's a great resource for our community. I mean, as far as the park, I mean, I've not, I just haven't seen it be used that much, but that's my experience, not your experience. We all have different experiences. I like the fact that there is a park there. And if people are using it, I think that's a good thing. But how does that answer the issue, the questions that you have about the maintenance and the upkeep? That's a big question. So on the one hand, yes, a roof and the gym would be, right there. They spent the money, we're done. On the other hand, the G Street could use a little love. And maybe if we did give it that money, we could do it and have better signage to it, have it more illuminated perhaps. If we had the money to go into that. So my preference would be to go with the gym and with the park. What?
Before we have another bite at the apple, can we just hear from the public?
Yeah,
first?
of course, sure.
I just wanted to say like the lighting is a really good idea because I hadn't really thought of that and
Camera, some
yeah,
security.
some security and the buy-in of the neighborhood because they do have a strong neighborhood association. So I'm sure that there could be a commitment from them too.
They do cleanups and stuff. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from the public.
I think Jamie has a response to the air conditioning.
I just real quick, because the vice mayor had asked about the roof on the gym. But if you look at this, the actual roof is for the Osborne Community Center.
That was on
So-
the gym too.
So the gym is the actual, you've got the AC, you've got the bathroom rooms. We have a lot of different improvements that need to happen at the actual gym itself. But the roof is for the Osborne Center.
The roof was on last year's for the gym though.
Correct. That was for the gym, and that's the one that we got a couple more years
okay.
on. So
So
I just want to
that
make
is-
sure we were clear on which roof we were talking about. So
So was there a reason why the gym is in the memo but not in the slide that we have? It's just like,
I noticed that as I was
Yeah.
that I do not know.
but
But yeah, so the gym was
Right.
obviously we have multiple improvements that can happen at the gym, and that does get a lot of use, as the mayor
It really
said.
does.
How
Thank-
old is the roof at the Osborne Center? How long do we have on that?
I believe we have about another year left on that one, so it's something we're going to have to look at putting into the budget if it's not something we're going to handle in
Well, especially after we
CDBG.
just spent all that money renovating it. You don't put the
Correct.
roof.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, we have to do the roof, but I want the gym to have AC.
Well, do we anticipate getting CDBG funds every year? Jerry?
Yes,
Okay, so maybe prioritize for next year, the roof.
we'll be back this time next year.
Be back. Or the. Yeah, all right. Madam Clerk, do you have any comments on this one?
Yes, I have two comments, Madam Mayor.
Okay, let's go forward with those first, then we'll do in person.
Okay, the first comment is from Sam Smith, 109 North Palm Way. I'm not against the idea of improvements at the Tropical Ridge Fitness area or the idea of greenway improvements all on the west side of the city. But I have to ask why year after year, decade after decade, the residents and the children of the northeast section of the city receive nothing for recreation. There are no parks, there are no playgrounds in the Parrot Cove, College Park neighborhoods east of Federal from Lucerne to the canal, nothing. There are no places for our children to play. There are no parks for soccer or dog walking. I'm not clear as to why year after year, administration after administration, decade after decade, this area of the city is overlooked. It is inequitable and discriminatory. Year after year, I pay taxes to the city and see nothing done in my neighborhood in return. The 3 pocket parks we did have in College Park, not in my neighborhood, 2 have been walled and fenced off, blocking all recreational access to the lagoon. So in fact, the minor recreational opportunities we had, which were tiny, are gone. I would like to see this money spent on a playground at the Lake Worth Golf Course. There is public land right by the clubhouse that could be utilized for this minor amenity for our children. And the second and last comment is from Richard Mahler, 1767 15th Avenue North. Though I wish that all of these proposed activities could move forward, those that represent an immediate need and net a long-lasting positive impact are activities 2 or 3. Thankfully, improvements have been recently made to the Osborne Community Center referenced in activity 4. Our parks and youth sports spaces should be the jewel of our municipal portfolio and deserve our full attention. It is the job of our city to create and maintain spaces that residents and business owners can engage in and be proud of. Activities 2 and 3 as proposed are a good place to start. That's it for me, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, up here, in person, Pam Triolo, followed by followed by Peggy Fisher, followed by Wilson Dort. Yep.
North Ocean Breeze.
What now? You address? You have the address?
Yeah, I'm just North Ocean Breeze. Yeah. It is. I'm all over this. I just wanted to talk about the CDBG grant funds for a second. So thrilled that you guys did all that work at the Osborne Center. It was probably 70 years of benign neglect in the South End District 1 for, at least 70 years. No roads, no fire hydrants, no street lights, or very few. Fire hydrants that didn't have the right pressure. It was really, really bad. We focused the majority of all the CDBG funds nonstop. And I know Commissioner McVoy remembers in that district just simply to get it up to modern standards. And the question was, how does one section of a city get ignored for that amount of time? Just public safety, and we put in the greenways with hopes that, I still wish you would have put in some fruit trees, but we put in the greenways and we worked on them with the idea that they would be maintained. I know, I've talked about infrastructure before, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but we've got to find a way to maintain and put these budgets together and these extra dollars. We've got to squirrel them and get them into the right budget so that we have a consistent amount of cash to do what we need to do each year to protect the city. I would definitely say the gym, we talked about a program years back, and I'd love to talk to you about it if you want to. This was a inside conversation with me and some people, and I don't know if any of the other commissioners did it, but it was a talk about really doing a public-private partnership for the community center and the gym. And we had buy-in from the Police Athletic League and the Boys and Girls Club of Palm Beach County, and it was moving it all there and taking city land and turning it into more real affordable housing where it's needed. There was talks about that back then. I don't know if it could be that, but could be sort of a revamp of that based on what's happening today in your current conditions. But there's a lot of people that want to come help, and I hope we look at taking advantage of that. And I really think District 1 still needs it.
Thank you. That's time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Peggy Fisher.
Peggy Fisher, North A Street. Just to correct a misstatement, I said 2014. When I spoke previously, it was 2024.
We figured.
So just to correct that. I live in Tropical Ridge, and there is one 60-foot wide park right now with one piece of play equipment in all of Tropical Ridge. So I would strongly support improving the fitness park. The playground equipment is at the back of that park. It is in horrible condition. We are trying to build the neighborhood association. We certainly can do cleanups. We try and clean up whenever we're in the neighborhood. And there are a number of people who come and use it. And it is right behind Compass, which also gives people who go to Compass maybe the ability to go and use the fitness equipment or put a fitness program together to go out and use the equipment. So I encourage the support for the Tropical Ridge Fitness Park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is very lightly written, Wilson Dort. And then there's going to be Jeffrey and Wilson. Are you the spokesperson? Who's Wilson? Okay. Microphone for Mr. Wilson.
That's it.
And who's Jeffrey? Okay, so you'll first your name and address.
Wilson Dort, 619 World Palm Drive. First of all, I like to say thank you for replacing the gym roof, because it's a place that we go and we enjoy a lot. Thank you.
Yep. Jeffrey?
My name is Jeffrey. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
My name is Jeffrey Sanias, same address as is. I would like to say
You need to speak up a little bit.
I would like to say thank you so much for the gym, like what y'all do to it. Like it's been going way good, and like everything's been so amazing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I assume the gentlemen with you are all in agreement with that assessment. Okay, great. Say aye. All right, thank you very much. All right, good job, good job. Anthony, men a few words. We should all take a lesson from them. Jeffrey Segrich is next, followed by Rich Raphael. Anthony Segrich, I'm sorry. It's getting late. Oh, wait, another one. You do.
No, John. Close though.
Yeah.
John.
Thank you very much for this scintillating conversation.
Anthony Segrich, 601 South Palm Way. Madam Mayor, Commissioners, I think these are all good suggestions for the use of these funds. Communities need parks, buildings need roofs. And, you know, it saddens me a little bit that some of these facilities are in the state that they are. And, you know, I look forward to the day where the city has a healthy tax base where these things don't have to rely on grants, but can come out of our normal budgeting process, because there's lots of projects like this throughout the city, and lots of areas that need that help. You know, for me, looking at these funds, you know, I think we're not in a position to do anything other than what we are suggesting doing, taking care of these immediate needs. But it would be nice if in the future we were able to consider doing certain things with these funds to make them evergreen so that they keep coming back to the community. You can look at, you know, options like microeconomic loans for small businesses in these areas. You can look at housing, trying to get people, encourage home ownership and so on. And these things would have reoccurring impact on the city and bring tax base back to the city. But, you know, in the state that we are now, you know, I would say that obviously the Tropical Ridge Park seems to be a fantastic use of these funds and will have a major impact. The Osborne Center, if we've gone through and we've done all these repairs and we don't fix the roof, we're just asking for disaster. And we have to do that. So as a community member, those would be my two wishes for what this commission would do. Thank you.
Thank you. Rich Raphael, followed by Ms. Retha Lowe. I didn't touch it. I didn't touch it.
Rich Raphael, 832 North J Street. It was interesting to, hear the presentation on the Community Development Block Grant, but I've got a little confused because a month or so ago, there was a meeting by the Open Spaces Group. I believe that they're working for the city, trying to determine how to use and what to do with the Tropical Ridge Park. And now we're looking at the Community Development Block Grant is doing something to that park. Are this the same organization, or we got two different things going on separately with the same group? Little confused. There was a statement made earlier, I guess it was online, was spoken about, what can happen to these parks once they're opened up, once they're fixed. And I remind you guys to take a look at what happened to the Royal Ponciana Park. It was opened, great fanfare. Ramsey McLeod did an absolutely fantastic job working with the city to put that park together. And within a matter of a month or so, it became useless to the neighbors. We need to make sure that this does not happen to any other parks that the city decides to improve on. Finally, I also want to remind you guys that Mango Grove, a historic neighborhood association, neighborhood, we don't have any park space. We don't even have the benefit of, a park along the canal. We have no pocket parks. If you guys are looking at, park improvements, consider looking at our neighborhood and help us find something that we can do that can benefit our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you. And Retha Lowe.
Jamie, I think for the next conversation, we need to have a map of the CDBG area
Yeah, I
so
was just
people
gonna say,
understand
you're
that
not in
because
the
they're not.
Yes, there
CDGB
will be.
area.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You're,
And I think that needs to be.
yeah, you
yeah.
guys are not in the CDGB area. Okay. Right, okay, okay. Ms. Lowe.
Rita Lowe, Lake Worth Beach. I was gonna leave, but I didn't. I want to stay because I sit here and I listen to different people talk about the parks and what they want and this and that. And I'm glad whoever brought it up just now, it need to be established what the areas are for the CDBG grant money. And it also has been said that the South End, seemed like the South End been getting all the money. Well, the South End has been run down and depraved, as one of the residents said here in the chamber. And I'm here to say that I totally agree with my commissioner on most things. And she and I have had this conversation about the tropical park. We've had that conversation, and I agree with Commissioner May too. It's all right to put money into these parks or these buildings. We have to maintain them. The South End has the community center, it has the Howell Park, it has the gymnasium, it has the Wembley field up there. It's all in the South End, but it was never utilized because it was run down and nothing. Now that we have the CDBG monies to fix it up and bring it out, it is used more than any parks in this city. How do I know? I ride this city every day. I work in this city every day. And that park that she's talking about, I helped work up there, and they put in nice things. If the city does not maintain its own property, they don't. So they need to, as Commissioner May say, you need to get a system or plan. The gym is used 24/7 all the time with these kids. We need to fix it up. We need to, just like we did the Osborne Center. And with all the money we just put in the Osborne Center and just open it up, I don't think that roof is gone yet. And I don't think it's about to go. We need to utilize them. So I agree with, we need to do something about the gym, but we need to come up with a plan for the park. I'm not saying don't do anything, but we need to. I'm going to be with Commissioner May on that. We need to study that a little more.
Thank you. Scattered applause in the audience. Okay, well, here we are. We've heard public comment. Some of us have said a few things. Mr. McBoy's lights on. Let's each take one turn.
I had something earlier that I don't remember, but maybe it'll come back. I think I know what it is, but in regard to some of the comments, I think a number of the areas, like Sam Smith's comment, is well taken, but I don't believe that area, the Northeast, is within the CDBG.
That's correct.
So this pot of money is not eligible for that.
That's correct.
But his comment is well taken, and it's been made, deserves to be repeated, that we should find some way to get something in that part of the city. As far as the maintenance on that, if I remember right, I'm quite sure that, and Anthony could probably correct me, that there is a building, an office building, kind of office, something or other building right next to the park. So there, which has an interest, tends to keep an eye on it, on the Tropical Ridge one. So I think there are some mechanisms. It's not far from the police station either. It's very close to Compass. So I think the issue of maintenance of it is within the capabilities of the city and PBSO. So I would encourage putting some in it. And again, mostly because I see a lot of people use it.
Okay,
So-
thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, you said we each get one bite? Yeah, okay. When I was just up in Washington, they had encouraged municipalities to double stack grants if you can. Is it a way to use one of these as a FERDAP match? For a FERDAP grant? Do you know?
I'm, it's funny you should ask. There's a webinar tomorrow morning that I'll be participating in regarding FERDAP.
Okay, because I think that would be interesting to see if we could, because this 350 is a one shot. If we can use this to leverage more funds, I think that's something we should look at.
Can you explain what that is?
So if FERDAP gives us, let's say we go for a loan for the park
Okay,
for
why
tropical.
don't we say we're using acronyms that,
It's the Florida Department
Florida
of.
Recreation Development Assistance Program.
Okay.
thank you.
So if we were to leverage the 350 additional bonus money, let's just call it, and use that as a match for the FERDAP grant, I don't know if that's allowed with this new other pot of money. If we could apply for a grant for the fitness Tropical Ridge Park, whatever it turns out to be, fitness or not, if we could use that as matching funds. Because they did, I mean, this is something they really honed in on about this new legislation and on state and federal level, is they would like to see it stacked with personal PPP, triple Ps, as well as maybe other grants that could be mended together. I don't know if that's possible.
Well, we can look into that, but Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, in the past with CDBG funds,
Yeah.
that is
Well,
not.
with CDBG, you can't, but this other is a different.
But you were saying, but that's still out of the CDBG.
Special Area Hope funding is CDBG.
It
Yeah,
still is
it's still
subject to the
CDBG.
same constraints.
Correct.
Same
think so.
constraints.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was just hoping that if
It's
we
just a
could,
special allocation.
okay, so if there's any other grants that possibly we could use that as towards a match, maybe to maximize that money that we're getting. Just a thought.
Thank you. Ms. Bay, do you have any words of wisdom? Mr. Diaz?
Yeah. I would say I've shifted a bit after listening. I'm leaning towards community center and gym now, but I don't want to abandon this park because you all know we receive a number of complaints about this park, and it's certainly an area of issue. The community center to me is obvious because we fixed it up, and then the roof is going to be needed like pretty soon. And so it just doesn't make sense to not do 100% the building, right? Just to be responsible for it. The gymnasium, we've talked about this for so long, and I think we've tried to kind of come up with a plan on like how could we get to a place to replace the air conditioning, especially because it's being held together by bubble gum right now, maybe a little bit more, but it's hanging on right now. But I'm concerned that summers are getting really hot. Our ACs are being pushed to their absolute limits, and I'm just concerned that we're gonna have like one hot summer and every capacitor in that AC is just gonna blow and it's toast. And then what do we do? Then we're gonna be stuck with an emergency fix. So I'm leaning towards the gym now for sure. I don't want to abandon the park though because of the number of issues, and I think we have not a whole lot of time. You said March 4th, right, Jerry? I think we need to maybe be creative, pursuing other funds potentially. I think I liked Miss Lowe's suggestion or hint about it's right next to Compass, and one of the main things that Compass focuses on is health. So I wonder, like, reaching out to them if they could be a viable partner on like what's something that they can use or do at this park to have that appropriate use to help alleviate some of the security issues we're having. And I think that would be a really worthy conversation. Like if you know, if we could, I wish we could just kind of spread the butter on this grant and do 3 projects, but it doesn't look like that so far.
Do we have
Um,
an estimate, Jamie? Because the roof wasn't part of last year for the Osborne.
The actual estimate for the Osborne roof?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Because that wasn't part of our plan last year.
No, it was not. I'd have to pull that tomorrow. I don't know off the top of my head.
Because I mean, if
What
it's
that was.
175 or what, I mean, I would just like to know what that number is. We
Yeah.
don't have to make a decision today, correct?
Correct.
That's correct.
right.
So I mean, I think
I can have that
that's
information
important
for next week.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would suspect the roof isn't gonna be the, you know, one that, I mean, it'll be significant, it'll be a good chunk of it, but if there's leftover, maybe we can overlap it with the gym, and I think we need to be creative is what I'm getting at. So if we could do 3, we should do 3. Maybe we should consider for that park, you know, what's maybe, I hate to say it because you know, we just heard that people do use the fitness equipment, maybe a more passive, lower cost use, right? The playground certainly is something that needs to be replaced, but maybe the fitness equipment, if that's a burden to take care of, maybe, you know, maybe if Compass has a health program or something that they're aware of, you know, I think we just need to have that conversation and kind of keep an open mind.
Jerry, can we do more than 2?
Use our lights.
Will be
Sorry.
limited to 2, one
Oh,
for each allocation or a combination.
So it's still limited to 2, so we couldn't spread the love.
You can't have
We-
3
we can't get a
projects?
third.
If let's say we said we're gonna do the roof on the Osborne Center and it only costs $200,000, we have to give back the other 100,000?
The problems with property control numbers.
Mm.
Okay.
So
So we quit claim the
So-
community center and the
so
gym
it's
together.
Unity of title.
Unity of title, we
Uh,
quit claim them together and then we go from there.
I just have I see your light. I just have a
Yeah.
question. If we went for, you know, because you know, if the roof can hold on one more year, that's an option.
Gotta do the
But
gym.
if we do the gym and the Osborne Center,
Mm.
what, if anything, can we do about the park? And then does that, let's just leave that little park sad and alone and lonely and ignored?
Yes, because it would be a substantial increase. The fitness equipment, because I'm not sure it was purchased before, but when we were looking at Middle Bryant and replacing all that, you have to buy the proper equipment for the
Right.
elements that we currently live in. I'm not sure that's always been done, which has been the reason that some of it is kind of dilapidated in the rate it has. So to buy the proper stuff that's going to last in our elements, it costs a considerable amount of money.
Now, on some of those heart trails that we all used to walk on, they're still in John Prince Park. Some of the fitness pieces were not moving, didn't have
Correct.
moving pieces. They were like pieces of wood that you went from one step to the other, which might be cheaper. I mean, instead of going, because I agree with the Osborne Community Center. We just put all that money into it. It would be terrible if the roof went and we had to do it all over again. But I also don't want to see that park just abandoned, which it sounds like it's going to happen. So we all had one speak, and Mr. Brown had his.
I did want to mention, so one of the things we've done lately is we've had an assessment done on all of the roofs on all of our city facilities because that had to be updated. So I'll have all that information leading into the next one, and not just for Osborne, but for all of our roofs in the city. I also did just send this map to the clerk and had her throw this up here. This is a map that we had done, I think the year before last, but this basically overlaid the CDBG target area with the actual CRA area. So the CDBG area up there, if you see it, it's kind of hard, you have to zoom in, but it's the what's in red.
Right.
So basically the border on the east is Dixie Highway. The border on the north is 10th Avenue North. So everything is kind of southwest as far as the city is concerned. And then it kind of borders on 95. North of Lake, you go a little bit further west of 95 to our boundaries on the west, but it does not reach into the Lake Osborne area.
It's true, I could
So-
buy that big empty property at the corner of A Street and 10th Avenue North and make it a park because nobody else seems to figure out what to do with that. Okay, so Ms. May, you did have a.
Yeah, no, I just had a question because I was thinking about what Mr. Raphael had said with the open spaces. And I think one of the things that they were charged to do was to come up with funding for some of these open spaces. Am I wrong?
Yeah, just what Mr. Raphael mentioned, just so everyone's clear. So the open space, the recreation open space master plan, that's completely different than CDBG.
Oh, no, I understand that, but bringing that up, I mean, that Tropical Ridge Park is an open space, therefore
Correct.
it would be on that master plan.
Yeah,
And was part of it's WGI, right?
correct.
Is it part of WGI's contract to find grants for this stuff? Or they're just gonna be like, here are your parks?
No,
Have
they do
fun.
identify possible funding and everything, but the whole point in that plan is to identify all parks, all open spaces, everything in the city. So
Right.
we have kind of a comprehensive look at everything we have and
That
what
would be
are.
But that would be
future
a
uses,
possible way to fund the Tropical Ridge Park.
depending on what's available. Obviously, as was mentioned
Right.
before, everything's kind of up in the air right now as far as.
And I wonder also, because I heard about it's across from Compass, but it's also across from the police station, right?
That's correct.
So maybe there can be a partnership there
Hmm.
with the police station and the park and the working out and the police working out. I don't know. I'm picturing this.
Well, they have their own gym.
It's not in my head right now.
They have their own gym. I do not know of any funding.
Some sort of a private partnership or public partnership. I'm just, as you said,
Right.
like, we have to think outside the box. And I think that with the gym, I think we have to do the gym. If we need to do the roof because it's going to fall down, we'll do the roof. If not, we can do that next year. But the park, I'm not comfortable doing it if it's just going to get destroyed the next day. So we really need to figure out a way for it to be maintained, and maybe having a partnership with somebody else in that could help with that. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Mr. Diaz, had you spoken yet?
I did, but I just had a very quick reminder. I think 2 or 3 years ago, we had a presentation of a nonprofit talking about providing fitness park stuff. If we could maybe get a reminder of that information. I don't know if you guys remember that. No, there was a presentation that we had in here, and it was like you're right, it was like a combination art.
We would have to put it about it. It was a great idea.
It was, but it was expensive.
Well, it was about 150,000,
Right.
but they also do work on you're absolutely right. They do help you get sponsors. We could try that.
It was Kapow grant that built it the last time
Right.
to the CRA.
Okay, so let's have a motion. So somebody make a motion. We don't need-
Are we supposed to do that now? I don't think so.
Well,
None needed.
No motion.
okay, well,
I make a
We'll be coming back on the 4th,
You'll be coming back on what date?
on March 4th with formal presentation.
So March 4th for the community, come give their input.
Yes.
That's gonna be the next meeting.
That's
Oh,
where it'll be determined.
that's when we vote on it.
Correct.
And are you gonna have more of a presentation or? like with
There'll be a formal
slides and-
presentation
Okay,
and public input.
okay, perfect. So young men who came down here and young ladies who came down here, thank you very much for coming. I think you've heard some positive comments with regards to your gym. And if you don't want to stay, our feelings won't be hurt.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Last year, we actually put buckets out and we had the community vote and put their vote in a bucket.
We did.
Can we do something maybe like that on social media or on
A monkey.
the Survey Monkey or have buckets out that day? So at least we can get, I mean, it seemed like the community enjoyed having that input.
We did it here.
Yeah, we did it here. We put the buckets out front and had everybody vote on, put
Right.
their vote in a bucket.
Sure.
Can we do something like that
Why
at the
not?
next meeting?
Why not?
Anything's possible.
Everything is possible.
Online is good, but we always have low turnout online. And a lot of people,
Yeah.
especially, don't have access, aren't on Facebook.
Right. Okay. And we're going to take a small comfort break. Madam Clerk, we're going to take a little break.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Mayor.
All right, is everyone comfortable?
Madam Mayor, it is 7:54 and we are still live, and I see Commissioner McMoy making his way.
And here we are. Where are we? Yeah. Unfinished business C, which is the lease renewal with FDOT. 5 years of sidewalk cafes, sidewalk and valet parking spaces. Before we start, I have a question, Mr. Manager. Is this something that we have to vote on tonight?
No, it's nothing. There's nothing you need to vote on. This is really for discussion purposes because staff preference would be to kind of get some direction from all of you so we can actually hopefully put together a policy to bring back to all of you. So if you want me to roll right into it, I can start.
Go ahead.
All right. So valet parking in our downtown. The way it works is, what I attached for the backup here is basically the staff item, agenda item from 3 years ago, back in November of 22. And our agreement actually with FDOT is a 5-year. It expires next year in 26. Okay. So the way it works currently is that our sidewalk cafe permit is basically the same permit that you would utilize if you wanted to set up valet. And it's not based on spaces, it's based on square footage. So if you wanted to do a sidewalk cafe permit, which we have multiple establishments downtown which have sidewalk cafe permits, which basically means if you're going to go outside of your actual footprint for your property, you have to basically pay for any additional square footage you're using outside of that. And when you look at the overall map for downtown, they're not straight lines. As you look down Lake and Lucerne on both sides of the road, it's almost like Lego blocks. So some you have barely any right away outside of their establishment. Some you have, it goes almost all the way out to the side, the curb. So yeah, so depending on what location you're talking about, they have different levels of sidewalk cafe permit. Now it works the same way for valet. If you wanted a valet parking spaces in front of your place, basically for FDOT standard, parallel parking spot is 8 foot wide by 22 foot long. So that 354 or 352 square foot, whatever that is, it's right around that. That's what it would be for one space. Currently, there is no limit for how many spaces you can get. So if you had multiple establishments like the Playhouse, and if Lula and maybe the taco place, if they all wanted valet, that basically would take that entire block. Mm-hmm. It would be nice if we could get to a point where we said there's a limit of maybe 2 spaces if you want to do valet, like we mentioned last time, maybe 1 for like a pull-in, and then maybe 1 for where you would take the vehicle and then another car could pull up, something like that. So we don't have a large downtown, as you guys know. We have 5 blocks between Lake and Lucerne, or between Dixie and Federal and Lake and Lucerne. 5 blocks. So we don't have a lot of space. So if you have like Rum Shack, if you have all these other restaurants, so you know what, I want to do valet as well. We're getting to a point where now we're going to be limiting actual space the public can go and park unless they're going to be valeting. So we really need to get to a point where we have that discussion of, we probably need to have a policy of how many spaces one could actually lease from the city if you wanted to do valet. And just as a reminder, and I put in the item as well, obviously Lake and Lucerne are owned by FDOT. So the way that it currently works is we have to pay them $5 a square foot.
For the sidewalk or for the parking
For
spaces? So
for
if,
both.
If we allowed a restaurant to have 2 valet spots, they would have to pay $5 a square foot. 8 by 22?
They pay $7 because the city charges $7 because we have like the admin fee. So we're only making $2 a square foot because we have to pay DOT.
The parking space itself, where the cars park is paid for. It's not free.
Correct. It would be just like the sidewalk cafe permit. It's all based on separate square footage. Correct. So even though we're being charged $5, we charge a little more just for, not much more.
Yeah, really.
But we probably need to look at that also when we get to the budget process and the fee schedule and everything else as well. But that's currently the way it's set up. Obviously, it's not working well. But we're to a point now where you do have some that are not up to date. They have not been being enforced that well. So we need to get to a point where we set a policy. As of this date, we start enforcing, and this is the cost based on what that policy is going to say. And then we move forward from there and then make sure that parking is now enforcing. So we don't end up in situations where someone has 2 spots, but now it's basically an entire block they're utilizing to do that.
And do our parking folks go around at night?
They do go around at night. But again, the valet has not been something that, since it's kind of one of these things that's kind of up in the air and very loose as of right now, it has not been being enforced. But they do go around at night.
Because, like I said at the agenda meeting, last week when I went to mail something, I noticed like quite a few spots were blocked off, and I found out that it was Rustico that was doing it, and I went and spoke with Nino, and we had a very nice conversation. And it cost, the valet service charges him $2,000 a month to do the valet parking. And never mind what he rents, and I don't know if he rents from the city or if he has a permit. And isn't there only one permit that we have at this point, which is the theater, in front of the theater?
Correct. And they are paying for basically 2 spaces.
And taking 10.
Right. And then someone, I found out that it was 5 spaces. I don't know. But we have to, I mean, this is our job, is to find a balance, because what Nino, who owns Rustico, said, he gets, his patrons are older, generally speaking. They, it's a high-end restaurant, and they will call and they say, do you have valet parking? And if he says no, they don't come. So, on the one hand, we need to encourage our restaurants and our places to be able to run successfully. On the other hand, we have the balance, once again, of, our own residents being able to get a parking space downtown. I don't know how we fix that, but I'm glad we're talking about.
I will say one other thing is, and it's more of an internal process, but how we move forward, I would be making some changes to the permit itself and the way it's laid out, because as myself and our project manager Shannon, we're kind of going through these and seeing who has what right now. You're literally having to figure out the square footage per space and then kind of back it out of what people are currently paying for, because it's not broken out between the actual sidewalk cafe and the valet. Those need to be 2 separate things completely.
Right.
So again, an internal process, but as we're kind of going through these, I'm looking at these like, all right, this needs to be done differently. So we will be making changes to how we actually do the administration side as well.
Which forces the question of, if we say each restaurant can have 2, and you sent us some earlier today, you sent us some figures. Let's say each restaurant had 2, when they have 3 people that want to park, where do they go? I mean, can we work out something with PNC Bank? Can we work out something with, and I know that our leisure services is moving to the Wells Fargo building. Is that a possibility that we could lease out those spaces after 6 o'clock? How creative can we be about finding extra spaces? Because we need them. And even with the parking garage, it's there are those that say we don't need it, but I think we certainly do. But we've got to let the restaurants survive, and we have to let our people park. So lights are on. Let's each have one crack at this. Mr. McVoy?
Yeah. So I think part of what I'm hearing is what you mentioned, Mayor, a balance that obviously we want to support the restaurants. We recognize that different restaurants have different clients and different needs with those clients, and that we want to respect that as best we can. On the other hand, we have other people who want to be able to park. To me, a piece of this that's really clear is, as we plan the valet parking, it's got to be thought about in the context of overall parking. And I think, Mayor, you alluded to that a little bit. And, overall parking for downtown, which is very much a topic at the moment. And that's where I'd kind of like to ask my colleagues a question in that department. And that is, are all of you aware that city staff is reducing the parking requirement for the largest development downtown? I don't know whether anybody else is aware of that, but
You're talking about Wamoda?
we're talking about Wamoda, that was described, and we signed an agreement that said a 33,000 square foot museum would be part of the deal. That would be 165 parking spaces, 110 unit apartment would normally be another 178 spaces that they need. On Friday, I've been trying to get information for a long time about this so that we all know what the numbers really are and we can talk informedly about them. Mixed-use projects are allowed to reduce the required parking by 25%. It boggles the mind to me that when we're all talking about shortage of parking spaces from a number of different angles, that we would even consider that just because this project happens to have an apartment over here and a museum over there, we're going to say we need 25% less parking. That makes zero sense to me. And I hope that we will, the language, I've looked up at the LDRs, wherever the language is, it seems to be a little unclear whether you have to reduce it by 25% or whether that's a choice that we can make, that we don't have to reduce it by 20%, but it's an option. And the logic behind it that is described in it says, if you have two uses, and an example might be a bank and a church, well, those two are typically not used at the same time, just like you mentioned with the Wells Fargo. There, it might make sense to say, all right, let's reduce the requirement for parking for those two because one of them does it at night and one of them does it during the day. Hey, we can work that out. That sounds reasonable. But we're not talking about that here, it seems. So I would, in our discussions of valet parking and in our discussions of parking, let's not do it in bits and pieces. Let's make sure we're thinking of it holistically and not doing things. Many people have said the mid has been a real problem on 17th Avenue and on the other one south of it. The mid has, and I had that confirmed today, the mid has some businesses on the front. That's a mixed use. So we said you can have 25%, we told the developer, you can have 25% less parking. Obviously, that made no sense at all. And we know what the result is. Problems on 17th that extend quite a ways west from the mid. So please, let's make sure as we're thinking about this, that we look at that everybody is aware that we are considering with WMOTA allowing them to have 25% less. And let's make sure that we are all conscious of it and we think that's a good idea.
Thank you. Up next, Ms. May.
Thank you. I turned it off instead of on. I do want to focus specifically on the valet, but I want to address the parking that Mr. McVoy just brought up, because I do know that I have sat up here numerous times and asked William to bring back the language on parking that we allow, and we have yet to get that. So we need that, because I agree with you 1,000,000,000,000,000,000%. It's ridiculous. A lot of the problem I know with the mid is the management, where the people were told you get one spot and they have 3 cars. So that we can't control, but we can control I think that it's one of those entitlements or something that you get that was given in order to incentivize people to come, and we don't need to give that one away anymore because now we're suffering. So maybe in the past it was okay, maybe it's not okay now. So I don't disagree with you, but that's outside of the scope of this discussion. So this discussion is simply about the valet. And I will tell you, I came down Federal to Lucerne at about 4:45, and at that time, Oceano had 5 spots already blocked off. And Paradiso had their lot plus the valet, and then you go in the other block and you have Rustico. And I've been told Rustico is the only one right now with a valid on Lucerne. Does Rustico have a valid valet deal?
Not that we found today.
Okay, so nothing on Lucerne. Then we go on to Lake, and we have the Playhouse, which has been, actually they were good for a while, but now it's the whole block. So do we have a deal with them on file legit current?
Yeah, per project manager today, she said they do have 2 spaces they're paying.
2 spaces.
2.
Okay, so then we have to abide by that deal because that's already been inked. Okay, so then we really need to come up with and we can't really direct, or can we direct where valet parking parks. Okay, so then I'm just trying to put a box around this conversation so we don't go off into left field. So we need, okay, unless we can park in left field, that would be perfect. But, and that's the right side, left field. Anyway, but I'm trying to figure it out. I think that the 2 spots is good. Obviously, you don't want to have every single one use 2 spots. It would be fabulous if they got together. And I think maybe we have cart before horse with Business Advisory Board coming up on Thursday, but it would be fabulous if they worked together and that they could have a spot on Lake for valet and then one on Lucerne, but we can't dictate what individual businesses do. So, therefore we have to come up with a policy that works where you don't have somebody who is going to take up the entire block. I've literally almost parked there and said, I know you only get 2 spots, and that I didn't want to pull, but I almost
I
did.
moved to Colin.
Yeah, it's as Mr. Anthony said, it's BS. So we need to decide that. Also, when was the $7, the $2 profit? When was that established? How many years ago?
So that goes back to the actual 2021 agreement.
Oh, that's not that
It's $5 to FDOT.
Right. I understand
Now,
that.
as part of the fee schedule, we can choose what we charge above and beyond that $5. If you wanted to say $20, so we got like a $15 profit
But
per square
historically,
foot.
it's been the $7.
Historically, it's been the
Well,
$7. But
it isn't as historical as I thought. I thought you were going to tell me it was from 1998,
no, keep in mind the
but
cost.
$2 is nothing.
But I think
But that's the cost for the city. So for DOT, we
Well,
have to pay $5 per square foot.
Right.
The city charges $7.
I understand that. So we
Okay.
get 2.
Correct.
I understand that.
before 2021, that's something.
That's correct.
Right.
Exactly.
So
That goes
now,
back, I think 2016.
so
is the
under
original
the
agreement.
agreement with the Playhouse, they're under the $7 agreement.
Correct.
Okay, but nobody else is.
No.
So we can come up with what we want to charge per square foot, knowing that $5 goes to DOT and anything above would come to us. So we have to come up with that. We have to come up how many spots, and we have to make sure that we have parking enforcement.
And do you want the valet to be the same cost per square foot as you would want the sidewalk cafe permit?
Well, according to you, and I agree with you that those need to be completely separate. So I think we should assume we're going to separate those. So that would be like step 1.
Do we have consensus?
Do we have
to separate
consensus
them?
to separate that?
Yeah, I
Yes.
think.
Okay,
everybody-
so then whatever sidewalk cafe isn't our issue tonight. So let's just stick with tonight's issue. Then we have valet. So we need to figure out how much above the $5 we want to charge, how many spots each person can get, and how many permits we are willing to give out. Because if somebody says, well, oh, I've got to go get my permit. If they all get permits, there's no spots left. So they're, kind of like the pipeline. You got to have this, you got to get your permit in. And if you don't get it, you don't get it. Then we need to say, well, how long are these permits valid for? And when can somebody else apply for them? And, are they going to bid on them to see who's going to spend the most and they get it? I don't know how that works, but I think we need to just kind of box in specifically what we need to decide tonight so that not this weekend, since according to street painting, there is no valet this weekend, but the following weekend, we can make sure that we're, we've informed and we're enforcing. So that's I just wanted to put a box around the discussion. I think we needed to increase from $7. I think that 2 spots each is fine, but I want to hear from you guys. So thank you for letting me talk.
Just
Mr. Diaz.
clarification, is that per month or per year? Square foot per year.
That's on an annual basis.
So that's
That's nothing.
1,200 per year. That's not very much.
Okay, Mr. Diaz?
No, that's nothing.
Mr.
Yeah. I thought it was per month. but-
It should be per month.
Yeah, so to build on that, because there's a lot on that, not disagreeing with any of it. I think, when I think about this problem, you're right. If we put out like, all right, fill out your applications, 2 spots each, every single one of them are going to put in an application. Then what do we do? And what I thought a little bit sad to hear, or not necessarily sad, but it's like an obstacle. What you mentioned about, what you heard about the customer base at Rustico, like they want to be close, right? And that kind of hinders what I was thinking, because what I was thinking is, the Playhouse has their valet in front. And, you know, Lucerne certainly needs something, and maybe it's beneficial to have some sort of like centralized location that the street focuses, or maybe it's like within a certain zone. So we definitely got to put a limit on, you know, how many of these stations exist. And the other thing, you know, I mentioned there was a caveat. The caveat is we can tell valet where to park, assuming that we have control of that lot, right? And there are so many, I mean, maybe not so many, but there's quite a few spots, right? I'm looking at like the AT&T staff parking lot that has 12 spots. I'm looking at, it doesn't have a gate though. You go in through the alley. Does it have a gate? Okay.
We got
I think it's
PNC.
just
We have PNC. Yeah. So there's all these private lots, and my,
Excuse me, L Street.
right. Yeah. So we have all this inventory available, right? And then the one that really stands out too, of course, is 601 and 605. And when I talked to last week the staff as they were building out Cantina Americana, they were talking about their plans for that parking lot. And I, you know, thinking of this issue, I kind of thought or brought up in conversation. I was like, hey, if if you're using it for staff only, for example, or something, and spots, for example, like, would you be amenable to talk to like the neighboring Italian restaurant and you know, if they would want to like pay them to like lease out spots? And they seem like, you know, it's up to them to have that conversation. But my question is, and maybe it's a bit of a legal question, like, we as a city, can we even like I would love to encourage some of these businesses to say, okay, you have these private lots, like maybe talk to them first, because if you can work out a
Let
deal.
me ask you a question, because something that you just said about the cantina.
Yeah.
I was gonna use the parking lot behind them for staff. Are they in communication with the owner of that lot?
Well, it's the same landlord.
Right, okay, but
Yeah.
in terms of like parking there.
That was the impression that they gave me, which is, you know, I'm trying not to get my hopes up because we all know them. Yeah.
If all those restaurant owners could chip in and rent that.
Right.
lot, I don't know, maybe somebody should reach out to the owner.
And that's the question, like, as a city, you know, I know we can encourage these businesses to have that communication, but like, what would be our role stepping in to facilitate this conversation, even if we can? It's private property, so.
Just to be helpful, but if we each gave them each 2 spaces
Yeah.
and that lot was available and the church lot was available for the south side, that would solve a lot of problems. Now, whether they're willing to do that or not is the question. And I think it would behoove somebody to make a phone call.
I think, yeah, because I think that should be the first
The worst they
try.
can say is no.
Right.
Is it us though?
What?
Is
Do
it
we-
us though? Because that's the question I think he's trying to get at, is
Yeah.
that being that it's a private business
Mhm.
and they want to, and they want to
We set
offer.
the policy, and however they want to make it work, they can
Right.
make it work.
No, I'm saying if you own a restaurant though, and you say, I want to offer valet for my customers.
Right.
Then all you really need to do, as far as the city is concerned, is you would have to get a permit for doing that valet. If we say maximum 2 spaces, you do your 2 space.
Right.
But other than that, as far as where the valet company you decide to hire takes those vehicles, typically it's on that business to say, okay, I need to now go make
That's
the
what I'm
deals with
saying. It's not our
else.
business where they take the cars.
Yeah, and that's what I was asking. Should it be the city
can-
that goes out and now we try to?
About ballet.
Yeah.
We have a shortage of parking lots to do that. And I think your
Sorry.
point was well taken the other day, the other moment, not day, seems like it was a day ago, about the business development tomorrow, the Thursday
That was
night.
mine.
That was you. Okay. I always think you have, okay. They're meeting on Thursday, and I hope a lot of folks will show up that will have input into that, because obviously the downtown businesses. So that might be something we want to talk about for the businesses to get together and say, listen, there's 10 of us that need this. We're gonna go to the owner and say, can we work something out? So, thank you.
Thank you. As one of the only people sitting up here who had a business downtown, who's had to deal with parking issues.
I have to.
But we have an office that's a little bit different. I had people coming on a regular basis. I digress. I have a different mindset. I believe that we do need to limit how many valet parking permits we give. I agree. I agree that 2 spots is very generous. My bigger concern is I think we need to tell them, this is your lot. You guys figure it out between the however many people, how many spots you get. Because otherwise they're going to tell you that they made arrangements, and then you know what's going to happen? Our phones are going to blow up that they're parking in, they're blocking spots, they're parking on the street. My car was blocked in. It's going to turn into a nightmare if we don't. Again, this is our city, and we need to, which is why I really want us to talk about taking over Lake and Lucerne. We need ownership. And to me, in that little box that you're talking about, is we need to dictate, this is the lot that you get. Y'all work it out. So I had brought up to Jamie J Street. We own that parking lot. You rope off one end, there's plenty of free parking all the way around downtown. If we give them that one little lot across from the post office and say there's how many spots there, that's what you get. You get 28 spots between the three of you, not the playhouse, but for the restaurants. Right. Because let's just face it, as I've mentioned, and I am very pro-business, these people who come to most of these restaurants pull up, Valet Park, eat their dinner, get in their car, and go back to Palm Beach. Right. They are not visiting our downtown businesses. They're not spending money supporting our businesses. I'm talking about it's literally, it's let me get mine and not worry about the rest of the downtown, which is not fair. And I'm talking as a business owner, and I love Nino. I mean, I love our businesses downtown, but Oceano came here from Lantana, never asked, can I have valet? Basically just thought they could have free run of the mill in our city after leaving downtown Lantana. And I just think that, yes, we do want to help them be successful. I'm a huge advocate for that. But at the same time, we have to think about the other businesses that are affected by those spots that are taken. And that's not fair to the businesses that have been here for 15, 20 years, barely surviving half of them, for them to lose that downtown parking lot with whoever it's going to be with. And I really think that we do need to keep it separate, but we need as a body or as a city staff to say, this is the lot that would work best. And the reason I picked J Street is because it's right at the corner. It's an easy turnaround for all three restaurants. And in Delray Beach, they literally use a golf cart to go 5 to 6 blocks to the only parking lot Delray Beach gives them. And one guy even uses a skateboard because he said it's faster. So every city puts in their rules for the downtown. And I think that I don't think that it should be a freebie. You know, we really need to think about our downtown and how are we going to sustain it?
Right. And who is saying it should be a freebie?
If we let them pick who they're going to go to and what lots they're going to use, they're going to say that they have.
I think you're talking about private lots. I don't think they were talking about public lots.
No, I'm talking about if we pick our public lot and say, this is the lot you get for your hours, because I just did the math, and because a lot of them aren't even open that much. Paradiso's open 10 hours a week. They have Paradiso. Right. Rustico's only has like 6 cars and it's not very big. Rustico's only open 20 hours a week. 20 hours a week. He's open from 5:30 to 9:30. He's open 80 hours a month. So for Nino, his need is not as big. He's not even open 2 days a week. The one who's got the most hours is Oceano's, open 26 hours a week. Paradiso's the big one. Paradiso doesn't even have valet parking during the early hours. They don't bring theirs in until lunchtime. So I think that each one has their own need. And like you said, Paradiso has a small lot. They may only need 5 valet spots, where Rustico has no lot and he may need 6 of that parking lot. But I really think that we need to write the narrative. As a body, we need to say, this is your lot. We're going to do 3 and you guys figure it out between the 3 of you.
Thank you. Mr. McFoy, you want another?
So I think we should require that in your thinking of supporting the businesses, that if they're going to eat those nice meals, they have to go to the gym either before or after. Now, no, it seems like we have 2 pieces of this, and I agree with Commissioner May that let's make sure we're understanding what we're talking about. If I'm understanding right, they're kind of, and I'm looking to the city manager, I guess, for clarification. There's 2 things that we might want to control. One is the spaces on the road where the in and out of the cars happens and the interaction with the valet. And the other is where those cars magically disappear to, right, that the customer doesn't care about, but we might well care about.
That's what we're talking about.
So they're 2 separate things. And I guess I heard a concern, I think, from everybody that, you know, here we're talking about very specific restaurants, but, you know, restaurants could in theory come and go, and we might have a different situation in the future. So we might want to design the policy looking forward. A question I have on the 2-lot thing and the concern that, wow, if each restaurant has 2 lots, maybe they don't need that much. Could we do something like, and this is just an idea I'm throwing out. I don't know if it's any good. That on each block, there is one set of 2 lots, and that's where all the valet parking is run out of.
Spots, not lots.
Yeah, spots. Thank you. Yeah, definitely not 2 lots, 2 spots. Now, some restaurants are going to be a little, some business is going to be a little farther from it, but nobody's going to be more than a half block from it. Maybe you put it in the middle.
If more than one restaurant is used, and when you is using that space, it's gonna be, but, and when you talk about they're only open, but that's, I mean, those, okay, so we're talking really the biggest, right, we're talking
No,
about.
no, I was
5
just
to
saying, but the
10.
cost is different, the need for each restaurant is different, and I appreciate that. Now, in downtown Delray, there's one valet that serves 5 different restaurants, and all
That's
their
what I'm
logos is
thinking.
there.
As long, but I don't know how many spots they have. I'm just thinking, okay, one spot is like where you pull up and you
Give
here's
them the keys.
here's
Right.
The next spot and the other
It's the
spot is
person
for the
behind.
one behind or the one waiting to get off, okay?
So maybe
Because
it's
there's
3
also-
spots per block or
Right.
something, but that's it. And then all the folks, all the
Or we
businesses
make
have to
them have
figure
one-
out their
or we do
valleys.
one valet contract for the entire, they all have to share it.
Or
like
at least they
downtown
have to
Delray.
share those parking
Well, that's
spaces,
the
how
idea.
they
Do
figure
we
it out.
run it or do they
Right.
run it?
I don't think we want to run it.
Yeah, I don't want to run it.
No. Right.
But we can't, if they want to utilize their specific valet contractor though, you're
Yeah,
saying
we don't
that
wanna mess
they
with
only
it.
use
The-
one valet for all of them, but we can't dictate to
No,
them
no.
who they use.
But could we dictate, hey, this block gets 2 spaces or maybe 3 spaces, but that's it. And you guys all figure out whether you want to share a valet or you want to have separate ones, but they all have to operate out of those 3 spaces. Well,
But I mean, do you know how many spots the one on Delray, how many spots they have?
No, they have to go to a parking garage. It's like 4 blocks away.
no, but
No,
the,
no, on
the
the
loading,
street.
Oh,
unloading.
there's, I would, maybe 5, and it's right
Yeah,
on
okay.
Atlantic.
It's
Atlantic
more, right,
Ocean.
it's
Yeah,
more
like
than
there's-
2 or
It's
3.
it's a whole,
Right.
You mean like they could go
But
to
it's
the
serving
Bohemian?
5 restaurants.
yeah, there's 5.
And then have a circuit.
There's no reason why they can't go to the Bohemian.
But yeah, so I mean, and it's certainly a good idea, but it would have to be more than 2 or 3 spots if we're having 3 restaurants use it. Okay.
But maybe 3 is enough. I don't know.
No, that's what we're doing. And I mean, I'm downtown a lot.
Especially if in front of the post office, because the post office is closed after 5 o'clock.
Right.
They
There
can
you
set up the
go.
valet right there.
You're that side of the block. I mean, even now with the, Lake Avenues is a narrow road and with the valet parking for the theater often.
You're blocking the
It's
lane.
blocked.
Yeah.
The lane is blocked quite often, which is unfortunate for the people trying to get around it. So,
Please solve this, city manager.
we're looking at Mr. Brown.
So as far as multiple restaurants on the same block, so if you look at the block right there where you have the Playhouse,
Right.
that's the only one utilizing that block.
Right.
So the same thing down with Oceana, that's the only restaurant. Who else is using that block? No, not I'm talking about the same. You guys had mentioned using the same block.
Right.
So if you
They're on different blocks.
are looking at a Rustico or a Paradiso, are you saying they would then utilize the block in front of Oceana? Are you looking for one block on Lucerne completely, or were you?
Well, if they all went under one valet, we would give that valet company like the block in front of the post office, and there's your valet, and you walk 2 blocks to the restaurant. I mean, I hate to be inconvenient, but.
I just don't know how it
Yeah.
works when we don't control what valet they use.
No, not that. But we control I don't know, we
five
should give it a
squares.
name, the load unload space.
So I guess the question would be, so on Lake and on Lucerne, where would that location be?
Well, I think what you're saying is it would be the 5 or 6 spaces between the post, on Lucerne between J and K.
Okay.
On
Say
the
it
north
again,
side.
between where and where?
J and K on the north side,
Okay,
in front of the post office.
right.
Which is where I had the trouble because I needed to mail something the other night, but that's another story.
So I guess my question would be, if you're talking about between J and K,
On the north side.
There's quite a few spaces there. actually.
That does mean that you have older folks that have to cross the street.
Yeah, 'cause
which is
you're-
not great.
Cars are gonna stop in front of Oceano, drop everybody off, then drive up to valet. So then now we've got them stopping twice. I think we wait and see what the Business Advisory Board says.
Shanna, I pull up, valet guy takes my car, I go into the restaurant, valet guy goes up 2 blocks and then runs back. I think that's what we're talking about.
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
that defeat, I mean.
And that's the point. You're gonna have a
Yeah,
multiple
then
drop
Russell-
off.
that
Correct.
Luciana's gonna hate it.
Correct.
Oh, you can't please everybody.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I just
Yeah, I
want
have-
to let you know, we have
Haven't
5
even-
minutes and 18 seconds left of the discussion.
Oh, good God. Oh, God.
I would
That doesn't
suggest,
count. Yes. Is this a workshop?
well, I mean, and we could easily make it that. Obviously, you had mentioned BAB obviously is on Thursday, but I would suggest if we can just we obviously you guys all agreed we should split the permits
Mhm.
obviously and have 2
Yeah.
separate, one for the
Yep.
sidewalk cafes, one
Yeah.
for the valet. The other thing I would suggest is if we can just get to a maximum space we would allow, no matter where that is.
For drop off.
For drop off.
And is
correct.
that maximum per block
Or
or
per
maximum
unit?
per Lucerne or maximum
Per
per?
permit?
I would say per permit. Because as of right now, this has been offered since 2016, and we only at different points in time have had 4 restaurants downtown that have utilized it. Really 3
The
that have really
parking, the
utilized
valet
this.
thing?
Correct. Because
So
the
max,
I mean, you haven't
We have a
had Dave's. that have been
Cantina's gonna
interested.
want,
No.
So
want
there are certain restaurants that just aren't Rum Shack. Yeah, they're not, they haven't shown interest, I'll say, on the past of
Right.
doing that. So there are only a handful that are going to utilize this anyway for the most part, or they
Right.
have in the past. So I don't think we're going to be looking at somewhere where we're going to have so many people utilizing this that we're utilizing every single block.
so
Well,
is,
this is really-
is 2 per pop, 2 spaces per restaurant or per business? Does that seem sufficient to get people in and out?
And then they'd have to we don't care where they put them, they'd have to find.
Well,
a place to
that's,
put the
that's
cars.
part 2.
unless we go with what Sarah said and do that lot.
Yeah, I think that'll be I would assume that would be a part 2, but again, we get to a point where do we want to allow the restaurants to, as they are doing now, they get to choose obviously what valet they want to use. They set their
Right.
own
Yeah.
price and they have their own
That's their
contracts,
own
that's
thing.
their own thing. And then say, if I want to offer this to my patrons, I need to now find another location where my valet can now operate
Takes the cars.
and say, we do have banks downtown, we do have multiple
Mhm.
locations that aren't utilized
Mhm.
after business hours. Technically, that would be up on the business to
Right.
work that out and
Right.
figure out,
Sure.
price and go to that particular property and say, hey, I'd like to utilize your lot after hours. How much would you charge me per space? I don't know. And obviously it's up to you. I don't know if that's something we want to get into and be part of that whole process, because that's
I think our
a whole
concern
other
should
thing.
be, here's your 2 spots.
Correct.
This is what we're gonna charge you. You get 2 spots, you figure out where to take the cars.
That, I would agree with that.
So we are dangerously close to a workshop and I really don't want to.
Can we go to the public?
In just a second, we're gonna do that. Do we have any cards on it?
oh yeah, sorry, you got 2 here.
Madam Clerk, do you have any cards from the public on this?
I have 2, Madam Mayor.
2? Okay, why don't you go first and just do that?
Okay, the first comment is from Sam Smith, 109 North Palmway. I've lived in Lake Worth Beach since 1999 and owned property since 2001. It used to be that the only valet downtown was for the Lake Worth Playhouse. Over time, the practice of random valet stands has creeped up and up and up. It now appears that random businesses are simply taking over public parking for their own commercial use. Based on the background material, it appears the city once again has sat on its hands and let business utilize public property with no compensation to the city since 2001. It seems this is a city issue, and $11,000 a year for businesses to co-opt public parking for their own use is akin to giving away the beach for $80,000. Simply and completely insufficient. How is it legal for commercial enterprises to block off public parking for their own private commercial use for 4 years? Isn't this the same thing as tamale sellers using public side streets to sell tamales out of their trunks? I heard several of you crying laws are laws about tamale sellers, which I actually agree with, yet you have done nothing about the illegal valet stands for 4 years. At the last commission meeting, the mayor and others made noises about letting businesses co-op public parking because they want to be business friendly. Laws are laws for all or none at all. Picking and choosing who gets to use public streets and public parking for business purposes does not comply with the repeated laws or laws statements made by some commission members. If businesses want to have valet parking, they can contract with the private lots available, but it is absolutely ridiculous that the city is letting businesses cone off public on-street parking for their own commercial use and have permitted this for 4 years without compensation. This must stop now as it is not legal nor fair to other businesses or residents and visitors. PBSO should be enforcing the law on Lake and Lucerne just as they are on the side streets. As for the cafe leases, the suggestion by staff that the same rate should apply is ridiculous. Charge more. This is public land. Why is the city so anxious to give away our public space? And yet again, why are the businesses not required to comply with the ADA? Oftentimes, tables and staff are blocking the required 3 feet walkway for ADA accessibility. Why are they not required to power wash once a week and they should pay more? Is this plan retroactive, or did the city just give away this public space for free for the last 4 years? Talking about this issue is insufficient and the practice must cease immediately. And the second and last comment is from Jill Carlin, 2381 Sunset Avenue, apartment 205. Require anyone with a valet company to have 30 private spaces that they have contracted with a private lot like church, i.e. lot on North M Street or the church lot on South L. They should not be utilizing the public spaces. Why not encourage the valets to utilize and pay for spaces at the Bohemian? Let the valets contract with the city for lots we have and are not used. Businesses that have valet service would serve our city well to use all the underutilized private parking in our city. There's plenty of parking in Lake Worth Beach. That is actually the last comment I have this evening.
Oh, thank you very much. Pam Triola, followed by Anthony Segwich, followed by Rich Raphael.
Pam Triolo, North Ocean Breeze. The Playhouse has had a contract for a long time, as far as I can remember. And I remember the city was talking with them and encouraging them to do a combo. And I believe that the Playhouse, what was then Surrey and Caleros, or who was there before Caleros?
Not me.
French place, I think.
Or the one of the Latin restaurants.
L'Anjou.
I think it was one of the Latin restaurants. Anyway, they did a deal together for that spot, and they were to have 2 spots, I believe it was. I remember when we went and spoke with them at the Playhouse about that. The discussions that were had then were about putting 2 different staggered parking valet areas on the avenue, one on each side of the road and on each side of Lake and Lucerne, and then getting the people to join together and pay for a permit to use that valet station. Again, it would be an independent, but there was laws laid out that the valet company or the person that was doing it had to have X amount of spaces. That was just mentioned as a comment. Because I remember Mr. Pearl had leased out his parking lot, which is at the end of Lucerne. He had leased that lot for valet parking at night to one of the companies. I don't remember which one it was. But what happened was these companies came in and then they were literally parking on regular parking spots on the streets, and they were backing them up to the 3rd block, usually 3rd Avenue, up and down on both sides of the city, and then just stacking them up. So the thing we were trying to control back then was getting some sort of policy in place that would have staggered. So you have one on one end with the restaurants on one on the other. They could all contribute. They would pay into this pool. There were rules in place that we're going to have, that you had to have X amount of spots depending on how many restaurants and what their capacity was. And then they would run it. But we would put those regulations in place that they had to have guaranteed contracts in place with spots that they negotiated with churches or whatever else.
Thank you. That's time.
Anthony Segwich.
Anthony Segrich, 601 South Palm Way. It would have been useful if we had Chapter 20, Article 8 as backup for this discussion, which is
Printed
valet
that
parking.
today.
a lot of the things that you guys were already discussing are actually part of our municipal code, and we have these policies in place. You know, so 19-131C, permits shall be issued only to applicants that provide documentation that they have procured sufficient accessible private off-street parking spaces. Item D, it limits it to 2 spaces for the queue. Item G, only 1 valet per block. So we already have a lot of these things in here, but what we have is probably a policy problem. It seems like we've utilized, you know, 1 permit to handle 2 things when this should have its own permit. The onus should be on the valet, the people who want the valet permit to find their off-street parking spaces. Now, as a city, we can offer them a lot and they can choose to use that lot. But, you know, I think we'd be foolhardy in thinking that we'd be able to dictate exactly where they needed to park it. I think we have an enforcement problem because we already have these rules in place. So I would like to see the commission first. Let's enforce what we have in place and see what happens, because it seems like it will clear up a lot of the issues you've talked about. The other aspect of this is, when I was speaking with business owners on it, is we don't really have code enforcement that is open and around when businesses are open and around. So, you know, if we had resources from code enforcement around at, let's say, you know, Sunday to Wednesday up to 8 p.m., 8 to 8, and then on the weekends up to 10 p.m., you could easily achieve that with a, you know, a 10-10-10-5 schedule. Some of these things could be enforced. So, you know, I think we have these policies in place. They seem to be in line with what you guys were already discussing about having staff go back and do. I think this is just a matter of having, you know, staff actually enforce them.
Thank you, that time.
Forgot to bring that. I did print that today.
Well, we won't change
Right,
it,
but
right?
it
There
would've
is one
been-
in place, but we're.
But it would have been good to have that one in that.
Bruce Raphael, 832 North of J Street. It seems to me one of the key factors that seems to be missing from this whole discussion is what's really going to happen to the cars once they've been dropped off at valet. Strikes me as what you need to do is have the companies that are doing the valet or the restaurants that are hiring them to have a plan, a published plan as to this is what we're going to do with the cars that are delivered. And before someone says this is getting involved in their business, no, it's not. If I want to make modifications to my house, I have to submit a plan that the city can approve. This is no different. I'm very concerned where a car is going to be parked. I think we're quickly getting to the point now, if we're going to add more valets and allow more people, what's going to happen to the businesses that don't have valets, the little mom and pop shops, where are their customers going to park? It's very frustrating when I am trying to park over in Lucerne and I have to go all over the place because there are cones in front of the post office. We're going to see a loss of space when WMATA is being constructed and the garage is being constructed, the one behind the Playhouse. So that's going to take away a lot of real estate that citizens would have otherwise had access to. Are we getting to the point now that we need to have, just like we do in Bryant Park area, have reserve permits for citizens to protect their neighborhoods? Because I see a day that the valets are just going to park cars willy-nilly. Guess that was pretty much the points I wanted to make.
That's what we're talking about. I mean, that's.
Yeah, I realize I've reiterated a lot of things that you've been talking about, but I had to get it off my chest, and thank you.
That's why we're here, Mr. Raphael. Thank you. And all salad valiant points. We are at workshop time. And I don't know what we want to do.
Are we allowed to, and I don't know whether we want to, but are we allowed to ask ourselves, do we want to continue a bit now? I think we can.
Well, we can waive the rule, but I don't want, can we?
I would guess
I
that
think-
another 5-10 minutes, we
Well-
could probably give a fair amount of direction.
Well,
Yes.
we have, I think we need to hear from the business people downtown on Thursday night a little bit. If, let's do a time certain. Everybody gets 3 more minutes. Madam Clerk, can you, time us 3 minutes each?
Sure, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, who wants to go first?
I
Mr.
think.
I will.
Mimi?
You, we're waiting though. Do you want to go? I'll go after you.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I think my batteries died. If we can. Well, I mean, we're trying to have a conversation, and like the one thing, like Anthony correctly pointed out, that I wanted to bring up is it's working. I'm being facetious. And one thing that was pointed out correctly is one of the things that staff wanted to hear from us is direction regarding enforcement of what we do have. And I wanted to bring that up. Previously, the Playhouse, this isn't a new issue. It's happened before. It's like we have to gently remind them that they have 2 spots, and then maybe they hire a new valet guy or something who just, thinks otherwise. And then it's happened numerous times. But I think that's a pretty solid point. Obviously, this week is street painting, so it's probably not an issue this week. But I do think we need to do that. I mean, I think we need to enforce what's there. And in regards to what can we do to encourage them? Maybe, I would love to hear from our business advisory board regarding this. How can we maybe not necessarily, how can we gently encourage or facilitate the conversation that the businesses need to have? If we determine these are the valet stations that are available, I disagree with the post office, because I can foresee Oceano is going to take great offense to that it's all the way on the other side on Lucerne. But that's the conversation to be had. Where would these stations be located, and what can we do to gently encourage these businesses to have that conversation? And, you're absolutely right, Vice Mayor Malega. I think they're going to say they're going to have an agreement. So that's kind of where my thought was, do we need to be a little bit more proactive, a little bit more, because we're trying to be business friendly. We're trying to encourage them and help them get valet service. So what role do we as a city want to play in facilitating that conversation on that end? I wrote down a bunch of questions, but yeah, that's it for now. We only have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. McCoy? No,
I
it's Mimi?
think Commissioner May.
We'll
was-
go
Okay,
Who's go?
I put in my password too many times and locked myself out of my computer. So I was trying to look up, what, Mr. Segrich had, because I actually did print that out today and I forgot to bring it, because that would have been helpful in the background to have at the actual ordinances that we already have on the books. So, but let's say that, what he said, what he read to us was there's 2 spots. The permit must include where you're putting the cars or you don't get a permit. And well, there was one other thing that he said. I don't remember what the other one was, but let's just direct staff to bring back what's already there. I don't understand why, if it's already there, what are we doing?
The question was, are you guys okay with everything that's there? Do you want to change that? Because there have been changes to the downtown.
Yeah.
Do you want to cap it? Because as of right now, they
Okay,
can all
so
budge.
the only thing that we-
that was the whole point in bringing this forward.
Okay.
Are you fine with what we have?
It said in the thing that you can only have 1 per block. So whoever gets there first, that's the one. And if the other people want to work with them, then they got to talk to them.
Again, maybe you guys wanted 2 per block or 3 per block. Are you okay with what's on the books? Do you want
Oh,
to
I
change
see.
it? That was the whole point in the conversation.
Yeah,
Do
but
you
I
want
didn't
to
know that
change?
there was already.
Yeah, so with the changes coming to downtown and with the new restaurant with Oceana Kitchen and all this other stuff happening now, are we fine with what we currently have, or do we want to make changes?
I
think
see.
we want to make changes.
And then that's what I was hearing, that there were changes what needed to be made. So that's why we wanted to have the discussion.
Okay.
But if your direction is just to status quo, keep as what's currently on.
No,
the
I
books.
guess my direction was if we had if we already have ordinances, that should have been in the background.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because that's where we should have been starting this conversation. This is what we have. What do we want to change or keep? So now we just wasted almost 45 minutes. But well, I kind of feel like we did because we could have started the conversation there, but now I am wasting time. So, I think we go and have staff bring back what we have and have that discussion. What do we want to change after the business advisory board looks at it as well?
Right.
And I think Thursday night, bring them what we have right now and see if they think that's appropriate, because they're the ones down there. They're the ones dealing with this every night. They're the ones who their customers can't park because Playhouse has the whole street. So I think bring them what's current and bring back a report from the business advisory board of what they think, and then we can go from there. That's kind of where my brain is on this.
Sounds good. Is that good, everybody? Is that as consensus?
I think
Only thing to add is Playhouse, this shouldn't take the whole row right now. Yeah.
Right. So it seems like there's quite a bit of good stuff in what we have. There's a limit on how many valet station spots per thing. We haven't clarified per valet station, 2 spots, no more. I think we've all been pretty clear that the other end of it, where they're going to park the cars, can't be on the street parking. It's got to be a known location, and they've got to demonstrate that they do in fact have an agreement with Joe Schmo to use their lot, or Jill Schmo, or whoever. They have to, that should be part of it. I don't know whether our rule specifies that in enough detail, and then we have to have some way of enforcing. Well, what if they ignore that and go park on the street because it's easier? Then we still have a problem. I think I agree with bring it to the business board, that makes sense. Separate it from the cafe stuff. I think we're all in agreement with that. Then the only one that seems to be left is how many of these 2-spot stations per block do we want to set a limit on that so that we don't have a bazillion of them coming in? And maybe that's something that comes back after the board. But I agree, the backup should include what we have on the books now, so we're at least starting where we are. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna pivot and turn. How many square feet is one parking spot? What do we make off one?
It's about
18 by
1,200.
18 by 22.
Is each parking spot, right?
Yeah, for a parallel parking spot. Yeah, it's 18 by 22.
So times 2.
Or 8, I'm sorry, 8 by 22.
Right,
Sorry.
so times 2.
352 square feet.
I'm gonna say that we need to be charging at least double what we're paying because we're taking the risk. And it's our responsibility and it's our reputation. We should be charging at least double for the square footage. I also think that this is a prime opportunity. I think it was Mimi who mentioned we should, I think, just dictate that they all park at the Bohemian and we give them a flat rate. If you want to park, and I mean, number one, Oceanos came here and they have not been interested in having a relationship with our community. They got free money from the CRA. They didn't even invite the CRA to their soft opening, but they got free money from our city. They brought all their employees. They didn't employ more people. So I feel like we're sitting up here trying to bend over backwards for somebody new who came into town that kind of catapulted the already existing problem that we knew we had on Lucerne for existing business owners. But I think that we need to be a little more, and I am very pro-business again, but I think we need to at least double what we're paying. And we need to dictate, this is where you're going to valet park. I don't think, because we don't know what's coming down the pipeline. And I think that we need to be proactive and think about what could happen in our downtown in the future. And to me, telling them to go figure it out, well, guess what? What happens if that landlord or that landowner sells that land? Now we get the phone call, oh, they sold the land and now they're going to put up a development there. I don't have a parking lot anymore. So that could just cause us more issues. And again, we have this Bohemian that is empty, that is costing us money. Why don't we just dictate and say, all right, you want valet? You're going to pay the city to park in the Bohemian at $5 or $10 a square foot or per spot, however we want to work it out. And we dictate that. That's our parking lot. And we're losing money on it. And valet parkers can walk or run 3 minutes. It's a 3-minute stroll. I mean, I
just did it from Cucino last night, walked it to the Bohemian, and it was 6 minutes.
I must walk fast because that's my regular parking spot. So
my wife argued with me and said, well, you walk pretty fast, but it
They're
was
just-
6 minutes
But,
for me.
but valet parkers
Achieve.
usually run. They're not gonna just take a stroll. They're gonna run to get the cars, or they'll have a golf cart, like most valet companies do, and they can run to go pick up the cars. I just feel like we're sitting here bending over backwards for a problem that really, it's affecting our residents and the other business owners who don't have a valet permit, who don't have high-end clients who are gonna come here, eat and leave. So to me, I think that this is an opportunity for us to say, you know what? Lake Worth Beach needs to get their piece of this pie. It's our land, it's our property, and we're taking the risk. And I do want to hear from the business advisory board, but I know a lot of other businesses in town that aren't happy with these valet situations. And I feel like that they're the ones who aren't being thought of right now. And also we're thinking about is the valet people and how do we make this more accommodating to them? So that would be my take, is figure out how much we would charge them for the Bohemian. This is your parking lot. We're doing 3 permits or 4 permits. That's it. Whoever gets them, gets them. And bigger, we need to shut down the ones that are functioning right now. And I don't care that it's season. Either that or we need to find them. They are working without a permit.
They're probably not aware of the rules.
No.
I'm not saying that's an excuse, but it's, it's really.
I think that they're taking advantage and thinking that we don't have code enforcement, we don't have parking at night, and we're going to do what we want to do. And I saw the prices that these restaurants charge. They're not on the low end by any stretch of the imagination. If I'm not going there on a regular basis, they're on the $5 little sign thing on Yelp, most likely, right? So I just think that right now, why should everybody else be making the money and us be left holding the bag? I don't think this is the time that we need to do this.
So where are we at? Thank you.
That's what I think, Bohemian.
There's a lot of thoughts going around.
I'm in Bohemian.
It would be, okay, now, for, Oceana, that's kind of.
Doesn't matter.
All right. So. Where are we at?
I will bring this to the.
Strident, but that's okay.
I'll bring this to the BAB on Thursday and see if I can get some consensus from them or what recommendations they may or may not have. And then at a future meeting, I'll bring this back with what we currently have, so you guys can make modifications to what we currently have. If it is, we want to say it is the Bohemian and that's what it is, then we'll deal with it then and see what we need to change.
How do we enforce the people who are doing it? Do we give them 2 weeks? You got 10 days, you got something else. I mean, I'm looking at Elizabeth now to say they don't have they're working without a license. So we are in season. We obviously don't have to worry about it this weekend. It's street painting festival thing.
Why don't we tell them they can have 2 spots until we figure it out, but not the whole block?
No, because then it's still a free for all. Where are they parking these cars?
Yeah, that part is important.
Yeah.
Generally, code enforcement is that you have to give them a reasonable time to correct the violation. And so
60 days. 30 days. I'm asking. I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, it could be 5 minutes. You shut down, you're done. It could be, 2 days, could be 5 days, could be 15 days, could be 30, 60, and I don't know is the point. So there's no law. It's reasonable time. So depending on what the issue is.
But then we have to offer them the ability to apply for a permit. You can't just say you can't do this.
The open process that we have now, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Educate them.
Yeah.
A letter to hand up.
And we would just need to let them know that obviously there might be changes upcoming. But for the time being, we're going to start. Correct. So, or we could wait and see what comes out of Thursday, and then I can bring it back at the next meeting. So it's really what do you know?
I think that they should be notified immediately.
Okay.
Especially that they have street painting to work through it. The street's closed. It'll give them some time to wrap their heads around it. And get their application in.
And did, for example, Rustico. I mean, Oceana's new. This is again, I'm downtown. This is a fairly new issue. I mean, the Playhouse has been, blocking Lake Avenue for years. But when did I don't remember Rusticana having a valet.
I don't either.
Just has it during season. And it was an issue when CWS was here because they had another illegal valet and we had the same thing, the backing up on both sides of the streets, but then CWS closed, which then became something else and they went away. So I think it's Oceano has just catapulted it because of the backup on both sides now during season. But Rustico, he always has it during season.
And then eventually Man Ray is going to open too, just to add to the cluster.
But Rustico's done it. We've never, enforced it with them, so it's going to be sort of a shock. Well, I mean, you can say that, but I mean, we don't run those businesses, okay? We're not the ones paying. I mean, restaurants are historically difficult and challenging to keep open, okay? So I also don't want to take away their business.
But at the same time, the other businesses who don't have the valet, they're losing spots. That's we got to be equitable for everybody downtown.
I think we're clear on maximum 2.
Yeah.
We're clear on they have to say where they're putting them.
Right.
And it's not, can't be on Lake Lucerne.
Right.
And it shouldn't be in the residential areas either. So they have to say where they're going. I don't know how we enforce that. That's a little more challenging, but there's probably a way.
Let's have lots of copies of the current ordinance ready, to hand out on
Very nice.
Thursday. So we know where to start.
Yeah, so what we did last time, we actually Tiana and Leisure, they collected a lot of email addresses, like whoever left their email addresses. So when we do the notification now, it doesn't only go out to the Business Advisory Board. It doesn't only get posted on our social media. We also send that out to everyone who put their email down. So what we can do is on that same list, email that out to everyone ahead of the meeting. We can do that tomorrow, as well as push that out through our means and bring hard copies as well. Yeah.
I think it's a conversation for the city to have, and I think we do need to amend. We haven't enforced it for a long time. It's something we can enforce, but it would be, so let's just, Thursday, we'll get input. We'll bring it back on,
But do we still need to approve this lease renewal? No? Save it for later? It says if approved, this lease agreement will be retroactively dated for July 7th, 2020.
Well, we'll keep in mind, this was just for discussion purposes. So this actual agenda item was from 2022.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah, I just didn't, there's really no need to rewrite the
Signed in
whole.
23.
Yeah, so we're good until 26.
all right. Now that we fixed that problem. No, I'm being a little facetious. You think? Well. Okay, next up is D, which is the settlement agreement between the city and the state of Florida, Division of Emergency Management, FDEM. Well, we don't like it, but it's another thing we were left with.
Did we get anything off of this was my question?
Oh, yeah, from the original number?
I couldn't remember what
The original number was like 7.
Yeah. I think it was quite a bit bigger, and we did.
It was a bit bigger. The city has not received reimbursements from something that have been eligible since this time because they've taken that as a payment.
Are we getting credit for that? Well, once we
Yes.
agree to this?
They
Or is
already
that
have.
included in here?
It's already included.
Yes, Yannick, the Ohio Finance Director. So like when I came on board, I think the liability was reduced from like the 7 million, the big figure, to like 3 million. And we went ahead and recognized that expense during that fiscal year. So which impacted the fund balance for the self-insurance. So any reimbursement subsequent to that, it was withheld by FEMA. So that balance, that's why we have now that balance of 1 million.
I think folks may need a little backup as to what this is about. And Jamie, you were probably the best one to do that. This goes back to Francis and Jean.
Poor Jamie.
I'd lived here for years by then.
Yeah, so back in Francis and Jean, this is 05, 06.
405.
What's that?
0405.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, even 04 actually, I think.
Yeah, there's some.
The city was a little lax in record retention back in those days, as far as and as everyone knows now, way after the fact, there's so much you have to do as far as reimbursement from FEMA when you're going through storms, as far as you have to retain everything. Like the photos, you have to do before and after photos. You have to take, measurements of root balls and everything. If trees get uprooted, like they need everything as far as documentation. So there were a lot of missing truck tickets back then. There wasn't a lot of electronic documentation going on because we're talking about early 2000s. So it was a lot of hand, a lot of paper, a lot of interesting things happening with the trucking companies that were being utilized back then as well. So long story short, there was a lot of documentation that was missing when it came to FEMA and us trying to get our reimbursement. So this has been going on for quite a while, trying to rectify this whole situation and get this dollar amount down.
But let me add to the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say this is a
piece
clawback.
We,
desk.
thank you.
Mhm.
We did submit applications, the city submitted applications during that time. Those applications were apparently placed in a drawer
Mhm.
at the FEMA office. The drawer was closed and they walked away. So it was years.
Left or
Did-
something.
yeah.
It was weird.
What happened to all the applications in that drawer were pretty much in the same boat. And when they discovered it, it was years later. So any chance of, and I know that there was a big attempt on the city to go through boxes and look for
Yep.
the old invoices
yeah.
and stuff. They came up with some things, but not enough to make it go away completely. So I think in all fairness, I don't know what the retention was. Apparently there was some not some great stuff going on back then in terms of retention. But in all fairness, I think the fact that no one asked them for the follow-up for a number of years could have, things do get lost, things do get thrown away at things. So I obviously it's unfortunate. As we learn in Florida League of Cities, it is not our fault, we're not our fault, but it's our problem. So I think the staff and our lawyers up in Washington have done a really good job in getting them down as far as they have gone, which is still a lot of money.
Yeah.
Question for our finance department: do we have this money in the budget?
So this money has already been accounted for on the books, so we have it as a liability. So yes, so we do have the money in the budget.
Is there any reason we're doing it in monthly payments rather than just send them the money?
Well,
I'm just curious.
right now the interest is pretty attractive with 4 to 5%. So
Okay.
we want to.
Okay.
Hang on to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Okay. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Ms. Malika?
And I just want for the people listening, this is what we call a clawback. This means that FEMA gave us money.
Mhm.
We were supposed to then give receipts. And that's how we are paying FEMA. Normally you get paid by FEMA. This is the reverse. And I thank you for thinking about the interest because that is, and it's not like they're
Right.
going to give us a one lump sum discount.
Right. We don't
It
get
is the federal government.
benefit.
So the longer we can
Yeah.
draw it out, the better. I wish it said 48 months and half of that month.
Right.
But thank you guys. You did a great job.
Yeah.
Negotiating. Cause I remember our first 2 months
Right.
in office, here's the bill that you're gonna have to figure out how to, and we're like,
Here's the
what?
thing they didn't tell you.
That was like
You
right
ran
after the
for
Bohemian
office.
bill came. So thank you. You guys did a great job. With that, begrudgingly, I make a motion to approve.
Okay. Do I have a
Second.
second? Okay. We have public comment from Ms. Fisher. Yeah, really. There was a lot.
Peggy Fisher, North A Street. I just have a question that I think people would like to have reassurances that there are now plenty of safeguards, record keeping, things that should be in place, that should have been in place, that have now all been put in place. So in the future for storms, there is no danger of this not being able to find records again. And I didn't hear that in your discussion.
Okay. Well, I believe we want to.
Oh, yes. There is, we made quite a bit of changes, I'll say, after coming in and discovering a lot of the things, because it wasn't just, unfortunately, just this. There's been a lot of things as far as, people doing public record requests, just record retention across the board did not used to be what it needed to be. So there was a lot of changes that have taken place. So yeah, we will never, I can tell you that, be in this situation again.
I hope that answers your question.
Well, and remember when we had the pipe burst and they were being so specific about every single record keeping document because we have gone through this before and we're not going to do it again. So I think we have proof that we know what we're doing now.
So we have a motion. We have, who seconded it?
I think I did.
Mr. McBoy, all in favor?
Aye.
Reluctantly, aye. Ugh. New business. New business agreement with Breakpoint Surveying and Underground for underground utility location services.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. B. Task order number 1 with Holtz Consulting Engineers for engineering services during construction for lift stations 5, 13, 15, 18, 19 improvements project. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Jamie, what would you like to say?
I did want to mention, if you guys do have any questions, Vaughn Baker, our director, is on.
Hi, Vaughn.
Hi, Vaughn.
I mean, you guys are rolling through them, but I just wanted to make sure you guys are where she is on. Should you have?
Thank you.
Hello. Feel free to keep rolling through them, but I am here.
Is there a specific place that it's going to be undergrounded for that first one? For the $200,000 one for undergrounding the utility?
So that's not for
No, that's not yours. That's
undergrounding the
Ed.
utilities. It's for locating underground utilities. So we contract that out. The reason this is a ratification is we've been in between locate contractors. So our own staff is having to take, time away from their regular duties to do those locates. So we did emergency contract with this Orlando Utilities Commission piggyback. And this is ratifying that we've hired them.
All right.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.
Vaughn, I do have a question on that, on this. So it's going to cost us not to exceed 200,000. On our fee schedule, have we made sure that we're charging enough to get reimbursed from this additional cost of now having to hire an outside source?
We have always hired an outside source. It's just that we have also piggybacked with OUC and they went back out to bid and got this new contractor. So it's just switching from the old contractor to the new contractor. This is not a service that is paid for. It's when you have the Sunshine 811, call 811 before you dig. That's what this is.
Okay.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
C, First Amendment to the task, Amendment number 1 to Teamwork Net Task Order number 3 to provide professional engineering services for the new 6th Avenue South Substation project. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second by Commissioner Malega, by Vice Mayor Clay, Malega.
Whatever.
Have, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Go
Mr.
home.
Liberty,
Wants to say something. Let's
his
give him a
eloquence has won the.
Good evening. For the record, at Liberty, you're all staring at me because you want to go home, right?
Yes, well, there's that.
And so does the audience. No, these are items we refer to them as reactors. They are not nuclear reactors. These are devices that are used at substations to control what we call fault currents. They're very important. So what we're asking for here is the approval. We had asked this design engineer design these devices into the new 6th Avenue South substation. Our engineering department made an excellent suggestion. Rather than putting these at each of the substations, to instead put them at the main yard, which would protect then every substation downstream from there.
All righty.
Brilliant idea. Will save us a bunch of money. We just need to issue a change order to the designers of that substation to remove them from the design of the construction drawings and instead install them in design drawings to be added at the main yard. So that's what this change order is all about. It takes us over the $50,000 limit. Otherwise, we would have done it on consent, but we needed to come back to you for that.
Motion to approve.
We did it already. We voted it.
Well, I'm approving it again.
Thank you.
He's
Triple
passionate about that.
dog approving.
Triple dog approving. Okay. Commission
Did we
liaison.
vote on it?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so we're good.
Commission liaison reports and comments. Let's start with District 1.
So as you guys are aware, I was not here on the February 4th meeting live. I was here via Zoom. That is because I was up in fabulous Washington, DC, with the Florida League of Cities Federal Action Strike Team. And being that we have our own electric utility and water, sewer, all that stuff, the Florida League of Cities has kind of made me the main talker when it comes to combating any utility bills that are coming down. And the biggest one that's happening right now, one of the paybacks that they're looking at for this big tax break bill is taking away tax exemption from municipal bonds, which would cost us millions and millions and millions of dollars. And there's even talk of them going 10 years back. So it was alarming. That was what I spent literally a day and a half every 15 minutes in front of an elected, including Rick Scott, who's the chair of that appropriations, that committee. And sometimes they feed you a line of, you know what, and they go, oh, I didn't realize that was even in there. And you can kind of tell when they're BSing. And so that was the main talking point. And then we also had PFAS and a couple other things, but I'm just going to focus on that for this update. If you take that and you look at what the state is trying to do to us right now, they're bringing back sovereign immunity back to 2 million, 3 million. They're also talking about possibly taking away property tax and putting that on the ballot to vote on. There are things that they are trying to do from within to crumble cities, villages, and towns.
And schools.
And
school districts.
And people aren't paying attention. And when I'm talking to people, I'm like, stop paying attention to the news and the conversations about everything else that's not affecting our 7 square miles. Because right now, these bills that are coming up and these changes that are going to be made in Tallahassee and DC, if people think we're not doing anything now, wait until our budget is stripped. Wait until we have and since 2020, we bonded $168 million for our infrastructure, which I explained to all the electeds affects Palm Springs, Palm Beach State College, parts of Atlantis, Lake Clark Shores. It's not just us that we are working for. And they all went, oh, I didn't realize that you have all those other cities that you service. So that was really that's why I was up there. I know that we had important things here, but if I go on a trip to DC, I hate DC. I don't like going there. But if I'm the one person on that board that can get any kind of point across, and I can tell them out of that 168 million, we spent 149 million in infrastructure and hardening, and really hit home and turn some light bulbs on. If we get 1 or 2 people to think about voting no and helping us save our cities, to me, it's worth it. And I had just had surgery 3 days before I went on that plane. So I really want us to be aware. Please check your emails. I've been trying to send you guys bills stuff that's coming through. If I know it's cumbersome,
updates.
I know, but it's cumbersome to take the time and like the alert that I got to make the phone calls and to email all the higher electeds, but we need it. And Jamie, thank you so much, because I called Jamie as soon as I left Lois Frankel's office. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. He's like, working on it now. We're sending it immediately. So thank you for working behind the scenes, because they wanted to know how much of our grants have we not received. And Lois Frankel's office was on top of that, making sure that whatever we're promised that we're going to get. So there's a lot of financial stuff going on right now that can affect our cities and our towns. And so if I'm not here, it's not because I don't want to be here. It's because I'm trying to make sure that we don't get robbed of everything we have and need.
And at the lunch last week of the Palm Beach County League of Cities, your explanations up in Washington were heralded as very good and succinct and helpful.
Thank you for doing it.
2.
Okay, mine is, I didn't go to Washington, so I don't have anything on that, but I very much appreciate that you are keeping us informed. And it's a difficult thing because most residents in most cities don't understand that there's quite a fight back and forth between the state legislatures and municipalities. And I don't quite understand why they think that's good for anybody, but beyond my pay grade. Anyhow, recently I've attended numerous community discussions where parking was a central issue. We've had some tonight. Parking garage, paid parking, spaces potentially lost, spaces potentially gained. Very much present in my mind with those discussions is the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council's recommendation to choose a parking garage only as a last resort solution, and only after one has tested, or a city has tested, a variety of much lower cost and reversible solutions. It seems to me reasonable that implementing lower cost reversible parking solutions first would be wise. But I'm also hearing a lot of loud clamoring for a parking garage now. We got to do it now is what I'm hearing a lot of. That puts us, I think, all in the position of trying to do a parking garage cost benefit analysis in our heads. The 5 of us up here are, if we want to be, prudent about the decision making. And I'm going to throw out a thought for my fellow commissioners, whether it wouldn't make sense to make use of existing market knowledge. And here's what I mean by that. Given that we don't have currently in hand a formal cost benefit analysis for the proposed parking garage that's going to come to us soon, could we take advantage of a market-based thought experiment? And here's what I mean by that. Banks and bond agencies are in the business of making financially sound decisions. They don't make loans that they're not going to see that loan come back. So what if we asked ourselves, do we have on hand the information it would take to convince a bank or a bond agency to loan us the money for a parking garage? And here are some of the questions that I've been told a bank or a bond agency would likely ask. They would ask, do we have a second opinion or a cross-check of our parking study? Do we have a financial analysis of the capital and operating costs and the expected revenues for a parking garage? Do we have existing street parking that is free and would compete with a paid garage? Bank, I think, would ask that question. Do we have a legal document that commits the city to paid street parking? If so, they would want to know at what rates, because they're going to, again, need to know, is this parking garage going to work? Do we have any other parking garages that might compete with a new garage? And I think a bank or a bonding agency would ask, what's your backup plan? Do you have an alternate funding stream in case the expected parking garage revenues don't materialize? Because again, this is where we use the mechanisms of banks and bonding agents to help us evaluate, are we really ready and wise to make a wise decision on it? I think we can be sure that no bank or bonding agency would loan us the needed 10 million or so without getting solid answers to questions similar to these. So I'm asking my colleagues whether it be worth testing the waters with a bank or bonding agency as an objective way to make sure that we are spending public monies responsibly. And of course, I'm open to any other ways of doing our due diligence, because at this point, I'm not convinced that we have answers to most of those questions. And that to me means we don't have our due diligence to move forward on big expenses for a parking garage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. District 3.
Well, I'm just really embarrassed that I literally went and looked up that code today and forgot to bring it. I'm mad at myself because that's not being prepared, and that's not who I want to be. Okay, so this past weekend there was a chili cook-off at Spillway Park, which is a beautiful park, and we're hopefully going to be getting a sign on Federal that points to Spillway Park so people will know where that is. And Friday night is a great taste of Lake Worth Beach, and the tickets, I believe, are probably all sold out. If there's any left, they're going to be at Tacky Tourist or Pause on the Avenue. But just if you don't have a ticket, that doesn't mean don't come down to Lake Ave on Friday night, because the streets will be closed and we'll be able to walk around, and there's over 30 vendors who are giving away either an item or a food or a beverage or a coupon or a something. So that'll be a good time. And obviously this weekend is the street painting festival, and I'll be on channel 12 on Friday morning promoting it. And that's what I got.
Thank you. District 4.
Thank you. This week I have a lot of meetings as usual. I have TPA governing board, which I don't think there's anything on this week for us to get money. So I'll just be there and to be happy to be there and vote for other people's projects. But I also have tomorrow our Lake Worth Lagoon Steering Committee meeting, and what's exciting about that is we're going to be updated. I expect to be updated on the funding program that we do, and Lake Worth Beach as a city, we're the only ones that applied, right? So I'll be getting an update on our application, which, just as a reminder, it's a program that the county undertakes that we can apply for, any municipality can apply for, and then using their lobbyists and their people, they go and get money for us, right? And so our application was really good because thank you, Jamie and the staff for working on it. And the whole program is designed to benefit the Lake Worth Lagoon. And there was an obvious project. It was a stormwater management project that includes some, water cleaning. So that was obvious to add in. And I told Jamie, I was like, you can come up with any problem we have downtown, and I bet I could write it to connect it to the Lake Worth Lagoon. And I didn't have to write anything because they did it, because they're phenomenal, and added things like garbage cans downtown, which we struggle with. There's a lot packed into that application. So it's really exciting, and hopeful that that's gonna work in our favor. And as much as I'm on that board representing the League of Cities, and as much as I encourage other municipalities to apply, they never do. And it's this program, for a couple of years now, the county has been using it to get funding for their projects, which was never the intention. The intention was that they wanted this for municipalities to apply. So, we stepped up to the plate and we did it. So that's really exciting.
What's the grant for specifically?
It's for a living shoreline, like a stormwater management project on South 9th on the lagoon. It's for garbage cans throughout downtown. Fancy, nice garbage cans that can't be knocked over by drunk people.
Heavy garbage.
Way more durable. Yeah. What else is in there? There's quite 100. Yeah.
Commissioner Diaz, is that an all or nothing? So they'll either approve the whole project, they won't tear it apart?
Well, it's legislative funding, so we ask for X amount, and then we'll probably get 0.5 times X, but but we'll work on it. Yeah. So that's exciting. The other thing that I had an update on was we were able to attend the Safe Street Summit, which is hosted by different MPOs, and this year it was hosted by Palm Beach TPA, and that was really informative. It was great. They brought in some really incredible speakers that talked about planning theory and just thinking about our future in regards to transportation and how we're going to pay for all this stuff, right? That's what MPOs do. One takeaway, I had a conversation with Thomas at Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and one of my questions was hot topic, and I know thank you, Commissioner McVoy, for bringing this up a few meetings ago, addressing this situation of addressing unsolicited proposals. And he had, Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, I'm sure there's other groups too, but Thomas highlighted that, it's something they've looked at pretty hard. And I think as a suggestion, if y'all agree, as we revisit that issue, I think it might be important to maybe invite them to see kind of what thoughts they have on how to navigate this this complex legal issue. Yeah.
Yeah, Jim. Yeah, there's quite a few people that are experts.
Yeah. And that's it.
Okay, great. I have a few things. First, I want to thank everyone who reached out to me when Lou was in the hospital. It was very touching, and he's home and getting stronger. Art Wars was Saturday night. I didn't really know what the premise was. They have 4 hours to create a work of art. They don't know the topic, the theme until they get there. There were vendors, there was music. It was the CRA once again put on an amazing event, and there were a lot of people there, a lot of citizens there. And that's like my social life. If I go to some place and there's like people, the events in the city, and it's heartwarming because our community really, that's when our community shines. I met with Captain Karn and Jamie last week about the homeless issue in the parks, and I think we all got an email today from Captain Karn about the activities that they're actually taking, and they're improving. They're upping their patrols. They're actually interacting more with the people that are down there. There are some nasty things going on in the park, not all over the park, but enough that, we need to pay attention. We can't solve the homeless problem, but we can hopefully lessen the impact on our citizens that do have homes and live here and don't want to be impacted. I have a family member that has a little baby, and they're afraid to take, they just don't like taking her down because they run across some unsavory things in the park. So thank you to the captain for doing that. I do have a request for the February 18th agenda. Stephen Lockwood, who's our new historian, would what? Well, no, for the next, whatever the next one is, March 18th, I guess it is. to do a 10-minute presentation on the architect Childs, who designed so many buildings. I'd like consensus to go ahead with that. Okay, great. And I would like to know when we get the signage for the Bohemian Garage. They really, what's going on? That and the bench and by the elevator.
Okay, I'll find out.
Yeah.
Again, I have to check with,
I mean,
with Chris anyway about the possible spillway wayfinding tomorrow anyway. So I'll see what the latest is on
our
that.
signage could improve. So I don't have much after that. But I do have this. Oh, is it Friday? Friday is the last bonfire of the year. So if you haven't been yet, it's so much better than it ever was because the street in front of the casino is blocked off. Every time there's more vendors. There's music. It's quite a different event, and this is get it while you can. And our green market goes on until the end of March, I believe, or a little bit past that. She doesn't know. She doesn't. But thank you for reminding me about the bonfire. So other than that, not much else. Mr. Brown.
Thank you. As we mentioned before, the Business Advisory Board, Thursday, the back room at the Irish Brigade from 6 to 8.
Now that's noticed so that we can talk, right? That's a formally noticed.
That's formally noticed. That is on our city calendar on the website. That's also been, the flyer has been sent out on social media and everything as well. So, and that is run, the chair, Aaron Allen. So we have been having them create their own agendas and everything because it is a board that we're trying to not have the city.
We just have to take minutes. We just have to have some sort of minute taking.
The secretary takes minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of the boards. So yeah, they do all that. Yeah. So that's Thursday. Obviously
6 o'clock.
6 to 8. Yep. Back from Irish Brigade. I also attended good buddy of mine. I'm friends with pretty much all the public works directors down here after being in this line of work for quite a while. Oakland Park last Thursday had their ribbon cutting for their new public works fleet facility, which also incorporates the EOC, which is exactly what we are looking to do here, which you'll see on the March 4th agenda, which is basically moving forward with that whole project. It's pretty incredible what they're able to do. They did utilize the majority of ARPA funds to do that facility. It's really impressive. My concern is moving into the process now with the talk of possible 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel and some other things that might not be the best time to be building a large structure that big. So a little concerned. But unfortunately this project has been delayed and delayed and delayed. Situations beyond our control. Our architect went out of business, the whole deal. So we've had to do a lot of things that we weren't planning on doing, but persevere and moving forward. So that'll be coming forward in a future agenda. That's really all I have. You guys have already talked about everything else, Street Painting Festival and everything else. We're really looking forward to it this weekend. Tiana was not here tonight because she's got a very long weekend
coming up.
Come
on.
Obviously, a lot of staff is not involved anymore because that was the whole point in putting this out. But Tiana and certain staff will be part of this really, really heavy.
They'll be there.
I've been trying to take it easy on her this week.
So Tiana will be at downtown.
Oh
yes.
Yeah. We still have staff very, very involved in this, but a majority of the emptying of trash cans, all of the solid waste department, and all of the people we would have working the event are not obviously going to be part of that this year. But obviously, leisure and our event staff are very heavily.
I should open up my house as like a rest stop, like walk 2 blocks and come down, take a deep breath. They walk by my house, and I have to say, it's one time every year where we sit and people walk past our house and go, oh, "This is so cool! What a great little cottage!" And we're like, "Yeah, we bought it a long time ago," and feel a little smug about being smart about living here. Ma'am,
I have nothing tonight.
Well,
Thank you.
Isn't that easy? All right. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Mr.
I
McCoy.
did. I turned my mic off too early.
And Commissioner May was the second, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Delayed, but.